I'd like to welcome you to the second budget hearing for 2018. Today is November 9th. It's approximately 6:30 p.m. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am filling in this evening as Deputy Mayor. However, there was an election on Tuesday, and I want to thank everyone for coming out and electing me as your mayor. However, this is strictly a deputy mayor position. The way this works for everybody is that it wouldn't take effect until January 2nd. There's also some questions about how it works with the council seat that will be vacated. Once I vacate my second ward seat and be sworn in as mayor, the remaining 6 council members have 45 days to appoint a member of council to take that seat. That person would serve all of 2018, and then he or she would have to run for election for the following remainder, for the 1 year of that term. So there have not been any decisions that have been made on that. However, if anyone is interested in that position from the second ward, please contact me, phone or email. If you want to have it kept confidential, I would encourage you to telephone me. If you email me, it is subject to right to know law, and therefore it would be a public document. So, with that, we're going to move over to our...
Excuse me, Nick, can I just
Yes.
ask a question? I just wonder if it might not be a better process to have people send a resume, letter of interest, everyone to the manager's office for the opening of the seat, so that we would have just like, almost like a hiring process of the person, so that we would know who they are, what they're about, being we all have to make the decision?
Well, certainly, but there might be people that really don't know what everything entails.
Correct, and I'm not saying they can't call and ask questions, but I'm just wondering if we shouldn't have them send a resume type or an interest letter to the manager's
Sure.
office to
I
make
think
it
that's-
more open and transparent for everybody.
I can put that on the website
Okay, great, thank you.
Very good.
and Facebook.
Hey, Tim, could you go ahead and get that on the website and put it on Facebook too, please? Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you for that insight.
So now, can you get that put on?
Music door.
Okay, so, moving over to our budget hearing. This is the 2018 budget. We go through all of our sources of revenue and all of our sources of all of our expenditures. I will echo what I did the last meeting as far as your real estate taxes. Certainly there are several sources of revenue for the municipal budget, but the big ticket, or the one that gets the most press, is your real estate tax. However, your property tax, your real estate tax, is broken up into 3 different things: your Monroeville tax, your school district tax, and your county tax. For the municipality of Monroeville, it is 4 mills, so that is $4 per 1,000, or on a $100,000 home, that would be $400. For your county tax, it's 4.73, so in that same example, it would be $473. And for your school district, your gateway tax, it would be 19.34, so in that same example, it would be $1,934 that you'd be paying in real estate taxes. So, just to be clear, though, what we are talking about this evening and what this body governs is the 4 mills, your municipal tax. That 4 mills is what covers all the services that we talk about in this budget document. That is your library, senior center, recreation department, police, fire, EMS, dispatch center, public works, the list goes on. So that 4 mills is strictly just for this budget. There's a lot of confusion on what your taxes are and how much they are and what you're getting for those tax dollars, but that is the breakdown that you'll see. This budget does not have a tax increase for 2018, so if this budget was passed as is, there would not be a tax increase, and that is at 4 mills for your real estate tax. So we're going to move over to our agenda for the budget hearing. We're going to have public comment. However, this is just for budget items for 2018. And we will also be, after this meeting, we'll be having our Citizens Night meeting, which you will have another opportunity to speak. However, this time is for any budget questions or comments from the public. The floor is open. Seeing none, we're going to close that portion.
Wait, okay, I do want
You gotta
I'm gonna be
get
the first
going.
and the last, it looks like. Okay. My name is Alyssa Beck, and I live on Trotwood Drive in Monroeville. I know that the last budget meeting, I asked about a sustainability coordinator, and Tim mentioned it's a big process to put the budget together, and it usually starts in about August. So I just want to, I would like you to talk to that a little bit, because I'm trying to figure out how citizens come forward and present. I mean, it's our tax dollars, so I'm just wanting to have a public discussion about what we need to do to make suggestions about how to reduce the budget using sustainability as a platform. So I was watching a Sustainability Pioneers video this afternoon, and it was about Monaca. And Monaca's leader, I'm not sure what his title is, integrated, for example, LED lights in all of the light fixtures, traffic signals in Monaca. These are things that are reducing the budget. You know, they're looking into vertical windmills, if they haven't already put some in, solar trash compactors so that our trash fees decrease. So, like, what does a citizen do to make sure that those sorts of things get integrated into the next budget, starting in August of 2018?
I want to answer part of that, which we spoke about, which is the LED lighting you're talking about, and the lights, and we are working on that. Every year, we get more and more.
Awesome.
So that is a way. The comprehensive plan meeting, they were coming up with, working on some of the sustainability as well throughout the 3 municipalities.
Matter of fact, Paul Hughes just announced that the rest of our traffic signals are getting changed to LED, the lights.
Actually, the bulbs have burned out from the first LEDs. They're actually putting more upgraded LED light bulbs into the traffic signals. Every year we apply for, you're allowed to apply for 10. So we apply for our 10, and then whatever's not used, we can actually then get another 90, and every year we have gotten the 100. And those have been installed, and I think if you start driving around, you start to notice the difference from the yellow lighting to the very bright white lighting. As well as every new businesses comes in, we work on with them as far as the storm drains and the water runoff and the impervious surfaces and everything that we can do to help with that. Nick, is there anything more that came up with comprehensive plan meeting as far as, I know there was a lot of discussion, is that being part of it? Or Mr. Little?
Yeah, well, obviously, the LED lighting is one avenue. In other, in the comprehensive plan, you can't put this under sustainability, because sustainability encompasses a lot of things, not only the environment, it's economic development, it's all those things that encompasses being sustainable, self-supporting, having a net waste, whatever the waste would be, if it's with respect to the environment, with respect to spending, whatever the case might be. With that in mind, we have a grant which we're going to be doing a study, just a study for walkability and also for a bicycle lane. So you're talking about more, I don't want to call it necessarily multimodal, but it does lend towards that area where automobiles and diesel trucks and things of that nature aren't used as much. If you extrapolate out 10, 20, 30, 40 years, like if everybody's been reading the papers, some European countries are going to be outlawing internal combustion engines beginning in 2040, I think is the earliest. So that movement worldwide is going on. That's one avenue with respect to the comprehensive plan. Not in a comprehensive plan, which Thursday, when you hear Alyssa, we talked about, is obviously the MS4. And I mentioned that a grant that is still pending, which is through the Allegheny Conservation District, which would start us in that direction with the MS4. Well, I shouldn't say start, but be encompassed with that, is the detention pond, which is near the Senior Citizen Center and the school district and the library. That all being cleaned out, putting in the bioswales, which would be on school district property, actually, so the school district is involved in that. I mean, that right, all of that is a start. And the MS4 program itself, that in and of itself is a sustainability
Huge, big one.
issue, so.
The other thing, Tim, is that I might add that all the new diesel engines that the municipality buys, counting the fire trucks and the road department trucks, have anti-pollution systems on them that are bar none. They cause us a little bit of more of a pain because we have to add a certain kind of fluid to it to burn hotter so it comes out cleaner. But that's all transitioning. That's all happening now.
Okay, I don't know about diesel, but, okay, so I would just want to put in one more plug for next year's budget, which would be that the municipal building itself make an effort as much as possible to go zero net, meaning not using more energy than it can produce. So, for example, I'm just making this up on the spot, but like we may not need as many lights in this room right now as we have. But you might say, well, maybe we do because there's 3 cameras going. But when you're in your offices or whatever, turning lights off when you leave the room or whatever, and going to zero plastic. So, you know, maybe you want to bring a water bottle with you from home.
Let me ask you a question. If there
Yes.
was any way to form a committee, would you be willing to volunteer your time to, I know you do your sustainable, you know, but we have a lot of boards that we have people that volunteer their time because it's what they feel is very important to them, like our library boards. And
It's an interesting question. I've been volunteering for a long time.
there's a Human Needs and Resource Board, which is
I would be-
maybe somewhere you could
I
put
would be
some
willing-
expertise.
I would be very willing to help get people on those boards, you know, being
So,
on some sort of
just kind
search
of-
committee.
Just kind of a thought, you know, to maybe,
Or we
Get your
could just
word out there.
utilize Sustainable Monroeville, since you're
Yeah.
already
You're already there.
Well,
up
but
and
I
running.
think hiring somebody that's on staff is critical, and that would not be me. I'm doing a few other
Really?
things. Yeah, that would
I
not.
thought you were volunteering your services, Elizabeth.
Right.
yeah, we were asking for you to volunteer, not for us to hire somebody.
Well,
To
no,
keep our budget under control.
I understand that, but with the understanding, when we really start to understand it's beyond sustainability, it's our regenerative future, it's not about sustaining anymore, it's about giving back. And so it really takes somebody who's trained and fresh, you know,
Yeah.
fresh out of school possibly. Stop smiling so much.
You know more than anybody else
I was
in
gonna
this,
say, you
than
were
I,
like the-
than I, not that
yeah.
I know a lot of people.
I
but
will,
Elizabeth-
I will feed information to people as I did to Mr. Little earlier today with some
I got your
suggestions.
email as well.
You can
Yes.
be on the interview committee.
Yeah, it's-
I'll be on the interview committee. I will
Yeah,
promise you that.
Unquestionably.
And I wanted to also honor everybody here for what they're doing, because I wound up by mistake last night at a Penn Township budget meeting. I thought it was a different meeting, which actually is happening tonight there, and I couldn't be 2 places at once. And it was a real eye-opener, and I'll just leave it at that. So I wanted to thank
you.
everybody for what we're doing here, because
Oh.
I appreciate it. I may not come across that way, I'm working on that too, but I appreciate you all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll leave the floor open for public comment on 2018 budget. Seeing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting, and we're going to move over to our question and answer section for department heads. And first up, we're going to talk about the tax office, so Mr. Pat Fulkerson, our tax collector, and Liz Summer, please.
Good evening.
Good evening. Before we start, I just want to congratulate everybody. I think you should smooth people out before you start asking for money. So, congratulations, Linda,
you.
Ron. Congratulate new mayor.
Thank you.
JD, I always like you. Anyway, and the rest of you guys. Anyway, also at the same time, because I got elected, we're going to have to put out a bond. Every 4 years, the bond comes out, and I don't think we have it in the budget at the present time. It doesn't come out of my budget, it comes out of the insurance budget, and I just wanted to remind Tim Little and Council.
Yeah, we talked, Joe and I talked about that this afternoon, and And I have that in a little spreadsheet that I gave to council, although I put in the full amount. We split that with the school
Yes.
district. And I'll explain that when we get to my
So
my
this is a
budget.
renewed budget, Pat? I mean, a bond?
Every 4 years.
Okay,
The
so,
new tax collector has to be bonded.
okay,
And it's getting a little expensive, but you can't do too much about it because
Okay.
there's not too many people that will bond a tax collector at that level. So
okay.
it's expensive proposition.
I don't blame them.
Either do I, Steve. Anyway, some of the things, Liz is going to go over some of the improvements that we have had over the past year, and she'll get into that. But I just want to give you an overview of what we should be looking for next year. One of the things we talked about this year, the whole year, and then we had the school board come up and talked about the delinquent taxes. We have about 1% of the population in Monroeville that doesn't pay taxes. Of that, there's a lot of landlocked pieces of parcels that really nobody's going to pay taxes on. They're just wasted land. But there's other people out there that are really sitting on the edge that are not paying their taxes. And they're out 5 to 10 years. I can't take them to the sheriff's sale because that's not my responsibility. It's up to the school board and it's up to the municipality in Allegheny County to take these people to the sheriff's.
What total amount are we talking about?
Pardon me.
How much are you talking about total is out
Oh, I
there?
don't really, right, we usually put $200,000 in delinquent every year. So you're only talking 1% of the partials that are really delinquent. And what you should be looking for is to take, like we suggested, is to take the first 5 or first 10 and with the help of the school board, go after these people and take them, get them back on the tax roll. Now, you suggested, we were talking about this 5 months ago, 6 months ago. And again, it was all talk and no action. Now, I think what we should do is do some action next year. And I think we should look at the ones who really are out there, who haven't paid their taxes in 4 or 5 years, and just living in their homes. And go from there. There is always a case where people have hard times, and they're usually the ones who are not out there 5 years. They're a year behind taxes because they fell in a difficult situation. That's not the ones you should be going after. The ones you should be going after is the ones who is out there the 5 or 10 years.
Do we have
Pat, do you think we should go after the people by the amount they owe or how long they haven't paid?
I think as long as they haven't paid. I think the whole thing is, if they haven't paid in 10 years, they're not going to pay because they're going to live in that house until you kick them out.
Can you give us some kind of list at some
I
point?
have given, they have lists.
Who's they?
Tim Little does have a list. And so does the school district.
I just wonder, because I haven't seen the dollar amounts and all of that to see,
Well,
what, because I
if
know
you
there's a
go
big,
into the-
there's a big cost involved in taking them through that
Oh,
process.
yeah, it costs you about $3,000.
Right, so you have to also then weigh the cost of doing that against what you're going to get back.
Right.
when-
That's why it makes sense not to do all of them.
Yeah,
Right.
That's what you
Because
don't
Yeah,
want
so
to do.
that's
there's
what
no
I'm just
forwarding
wondering.
address, there's no,
Yeah.
you can't identify who to go after, so you
Well, it's
you
the
would
same
just
with some of these
eliminate those.
houses where someone passes away and the relatives
Yeah.
don't want to touch the home and they become, the blight.
Yeah, we don't want
Well, anyway, that's what I would like you to look at next year. Work with the school board on intergovernment transaction or, intergovernment.
Now, is that something we'd have to budget for, or would
No.
the money that we pay, would money we collect end up covering the
Right,
costs?
it should.
Okay.
It should work that way. The other thing, our overall budget this year, the 2017, we have overreached our goal. We're going to be $1 million over revenue, which is a plus, surplus this year of about $1 million plus. So that's another good year from the delinquent tax collections. And as you can see in our budget, is that this year they raised our current level for mercantile tax, they raised our current level for the business tax. That's because we're going after people and businesses. If they're not paying their taxes, we're going out auditing them, and then we're taking them to the magistrate or the Commonwealth Court. And that pays off. That brings up your current taxes. And that's why, as you look in our budget, we're probably $300,000 more incurred this year than we were the prior year. So we have increased that. And basically, that's the overview of my budget. But we have also had other improvements, and Liz is going to talk about them this period of time.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Thanks for this opportunity. Pat mentioned again, this year we've exceeded our collections by about $1 million this year, which is the third year in a row. And that's because of our auditing program. We are one of only a few communities that have an auditing program throughout the whole state of Pennsylvania. And ours is in-house, it's not a third party, and it's been very successful. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck with our team. Without this auditing, this is a self-assessing tax, so you may or may not get what you're supposed to. You may not get anything at all, because they don't realize until somebody comes after them that it's going to, and word gets out, and then more people start paying. So performing audits gives us higher collections, delinquent, and then the future years, like Pat mentioned, our mercantile tax is over by several $100,000 in the current year. One of the biggest changes that occurred this year, and this probably benefited the finance department more than us, is we opened up our own bank accounts in the tax office to collect the taxes for Wilkins, Gateway, Pitcairn, and all those jurisdictions that we represent. We collected all the money. We distributed the money to each town individually, or the school district individually, so that the money did not flow through the general fund of the municipality. So when the books of the municipality are audited, when the bank reconciliations are done, it's all separate. Monroeville's money is in Monroeville's accounts, and the other people are getting their money. We balance out to a T. If anybody wants to audit, we can identify all of the deposits that are associated with those accounts. And it's a very clean record, and I hope finance appreciates that. Because it took on more work in our office. We're processing checks that we didn't do before.
Right.
I'm doing a bank help with the bank reconciliation, distributing the money, that kind of thing. So,
Do you guys get a fee for that? Do you get a fee for that?
Each
for
district
processing?
that we,
Oh,
not
yeah.
for process,
Okay.
well, I mean, when we collect the taxes, we're getting a commission that we've always done it for a percentage.
Before, but now it's just you can actually see.
We're just actually doing the bookkeeping of it as well.
Okay.
We're keeping it clean.
Yeah.
The record's
Gotcha.
clean, so that we don't get paid for that. I mean, just in thanks and smiles,
Thanks. Always smile.
So, we continue to cost-effective collect the taxes. We've been keeping Bob busy with accounts at the magistrate and at the downtown at the courthouse. We do incur fees, but those fees are passed on to the taxpayer. So we try to be selective in when deciding to go to the magistrate, when deciding to incur these costs and fees. We try to look at the financial status of the business before we go down that road. Not that we will not choose a business, but we don't want to spend good money after bad when there's nothing to get. If they're going to be in bankruptcy, if they're going to be uncollectible, we try not to. In a nutshell, that's the gist of what we've done. You'll see, again, our revenues are going up. Hopefully that will continue to stay. One of the things that impacts it is if a business moves out, so we hope that we can continue to grow our business base, and these revenues will continue to go up for you. So, any questions, please? You must be doing good.
Keep
Great
bringing
job.
it in.
Right. I do want to say that I have an excellent department, and the ladies and the gentlemen who work in my department do an outstanding job for the community, and I would give them cuckoos. I mean, hats on the back for that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Great job, Liz.
Good job,
Thank
Liz.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Liz.
Our next department will be the library. Nicole Henline, please. The director.
Hello.
We're on page 99.
Expenditures?
Yes. Most of the things that have changed in our expenses are beyond our control in some ways. You'll see our hospitalization, 2704, has gone up a lot. We had employees who were previously eligible, who did not take advantage of the benefits, but decided to do so this year and will continue to do so next year. We did have a line change, a line move from part-time employees to full-time employees. And other than that, it has remained, we've tried to keep it as close as possible while providing as much as possible.
A heck of a good job you did.
Thank you. The contract services cover our HVAC system, security system, janitorial, windows, our IT consultants.
Now, you have a surplus still right now. Do you have more money you're going to spend out? Like, I mean, you still have another,
I am going to try the next budget that I will show you. We have to spend. We have to spend everything from the county and the state.
right.
And so I try to make sure I spend that. And if I don't have to spend every penny
Then you
out of
don't.
this, I don't.
Okay.
So I foresee using more, but not necessarily all.
Okay.
So any questions on 8100?
No, that looks great, Nicole, thank you.
Okay, now this is a tiny bit confusing, but it's for future brevity and transparency. We have an 8200 on page 101 that has always been called ACLA,
Yeah.
which has been the money from the county. Then we had an 8300 on page 103 that has always been called library state aid. You'll notice that is zeroed out.
Yeah.
We put it all in 8200 because there's no financial or legal reason to keep them separated.
Okay.
And it just makes it easier for everyone to see where the money's coming in and where it's going out.
Okay.
And so now there will be one budget that is municipal money and one budget that is other money.
Like from state?
Correct. From
Okay. A
state,
and B.
county, some fundraising, some of the other things
Okay,
that bring
perfect.
money in.
The revenue side of that will be
Exactly.
separated
The-
out, so council.
On page 55, page 29, you'll see the entire balance of 8,200 is reflected.
Of the revenue?
There it is.
Yeah, on the revenue side of it, because when Nicole and I, I think I sat down with Nicole, Josie, and I, it's been 2 months at least.
What page was that on?
It is on
29
29.
revenue. 29 revenue.
That's separated out.
No, you're not showing any grants, but you still,
No.
that always,
We get
Library
them,
fund.
I have to work with Josie because the 8,200 didn't have the correct lines for
Right.
income,
okay,
but it had the correct lines for expenditures, so we used it
okay.
for the sake of getting the numbers in.
And you guys always do some kind of grant writing and end up.
We actually got $128,000 in grants this year.
Yeah, fantastic,
So
fantastic.
we, so that
The
all was
fundraising
in there.
money.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
The library fundraiser, the elevator thing.
Yeah,
Yes, the 100 is luckily for the elevator.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it cleaner like this. It's easier to,
It's been a goal since I got here.
yeah,
We cleaned it a little up the first year,
yeah.
and then, it wouldn't be me if I didn't bring you something.
That gentleman over there, he wants to have a conversation. Go outside so we can listen to the meeting, please.
You'll notice just some of the statistics that we keep track of. Some of these affect, and actually I do have to thank you, as always, for supporting the library, because the money that you provide as a municipality leverages the money that we receive from the state and the county. If you did not provide us with the funding that you do, we would get cuts from those places as well. And so we are able to be one of the strongest libraries in the county because of what you provide.
And most of what we provide, if you look at their budget, is structural.
It's
You know, it's-
staffing and utilities,
Yeah.
mostly. The programming, materials, continuing ed, office supplies, things like that, all come out of the other
Well, you've
budget.
really upped the game since you've been there, so I thank you for that.
Thank you, thank you. But this just shows where things have been going. 28% increase year-to-date circulation from 2014 to 2017. That's the number of items that have come in and out of the building going to different community members. The program attendance has gone up 79%. I did that about 3 times because that was a big number. But it is gone up that much. And we've had a lot of great feedback. Of the 45 county libraries, we are the 3rd in loaning materials. So of all of the libraries in the county, we're the 3rd in sending materials to other libraries so that their patrons can use them.
Who's number 1 and 2? Mount Lebanon and Bethel Park, I'll bet.
Northland and Mount Lebanon.
Northland and
Oh,
Mount
you
Lebanon,
lost the
okay.
bet, Tim.
All right, I should have thought, okay. Well, you have to keep in mind, too, Northland has a combination of,
5
is it 5?
municipalities.
Oh, I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not too sad because their budgets are much larger than ours. So
Yeah, okay.
we
Yeah,
do
that's-
very well for what we
Yeah.
have. 6th in size of collection, 8th in the in-house material circulation. Some of our most popular programs this year, the Solar Eclipse Party was great fun. We're already going to start buying a few hundred glasses each year so that by 2027 we'll have enough.
Yeah.
I still have mine.
We'll save them. It's coming back. It's coming closer. The bottom right hand, this is one of the things I'm most proud of. We went to a workshop about workforce development, which is so important, but they were touting their return on investment, which means for every dollar you put into it, you get X amount of dollars back to the community. They were so excited. Their return on investment is $1.50. Libraries usually average closer to 5, and we're getting there. Right now, we return $3.92 of services back to the community for every dollar that's invested in the library.
Very good.
And on the back, it just gives you a list of some of the grants that we received and some of the new initiatives that are at the library. Beginning computer classes, we have the NASA at My Library programs, mobile printing, with the help of AmeriCorps, an after-school program for teens. And you can borrow Wi-Fi hotspots. So if you're going to escape the cold and go on vacation and you don't want to have to pay a nightly fee for your internet, borrow a hotspot, take it with you, and you've got your high-speed internet. So.
I don't know how that works, but that's pretty cool.
We can show you before you take it. It's.
Do you have like an hour? It'll take me some time.
We do. We actually, any device that you would like to learn to use, you can schedule an appointment with one of our librarians, and they will sit down with you and go over whatever you want to learn about the device.
That's really cool.
We've tried to have classes, like a class on Kindles. Everybody has different questions about their Kindle, so we've had much better success with the one-on-one classes.
Nice.
So those are available. Just call ahead or come in ahead and schedule it, and they're happy to help.
So you have a smartphone for old people, like type thing? I just switched over.
We
Smartphone
can
for dumb
show
people.
you that you don't have to have a smartphone for old people. You can use a normal smartphone.
I miss my flip phone.
He had a rotary phone, don't
We can help you embrace the joy of the smartphone.
Great service.
Any questions?
Any other questions, council?
Very good.
No, very good.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
Nicole.
much.
You guys are doing a great job.
Great job.
Please continue.
I'm going to call up the fire chiefs, please.
Anybody, did you guys plan it, walked in actually in cadence? Did you all walk down the same aisle together and sat down at the exact same time?
That's how they do it.
Anybody notice that but me?
It's arranged. We're pre-planning that event. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations this year. Scott Belts, chief of number 1. Rick Wynn, chief of number 3. Corey Ramsey, chief of number 6. And the chief of number 4 is not able to be here tonight, so unfortunately. Basically, I didn't know if you guys had any questions as far as our budget went.
Can you tell me what page, please?
I want,
45.
45?
Yeah.
Thank you.
we have 44, 45, 50, and, wait a minute, there it is, 51. But the fire suppression's under what number, 2,200?
Yeah.
Page 45, department number 2200.
Yes. Correct.
Basically, outside of the Fire Relief Association, which is tallied and added into our number, making our budget look much higher, that would be provided from the municipality to us, the budget tallies out to about $199,800. There was an increase, or we put an increase in for fuel. It's kind of like salt in the winter.
Yeah.
Of course, you guys know what you're going to pay for salt, but the prices, as we know, fluctuate and vary.
We don't know what we're going to
So-
pay, so.
We've left room in there. Everything else has been the same, kind of remains the same. We haven't really had too many troubles staying within our means for the maintenance, tires, et cetera. So kind of leave it in your hands if you have any questions towards me on those numbers.
So you feel there may be a $13,000 increase in fuel?
I don't know if there will be the $13,000.
I thought the prices were coming down.
Until the
Last time I went out.
hurricanes. The hurricane
Yeah, then they're gonna go back up.
changed things a little
Okay.
bit for us there within the last couple months.
I don't think people understand how much you guys raise your own money and what you do for yourselves that you don't even get from the municipality. And I think that needs to be understood by the public.
Correct.
So if you could just talk a little bit about that, I just want
Well-
people to understand that you're volunteers,
We're-
you do a lot
yeah.
for yourselves.
We're five volunteer fire stations within Monroeville.
Right.
We all come under the auspices of Monroeville Volunteer Fire Company. We each, separately have our own income revenue based on fund drives that we put out annually, which most residents have, seen throughout the year. And our EMS service as well helps support our income. Our buildings are not city provided, as terms of you see in other municipalities or cities. The suppression vehicles are supported by the municipality of Monroeville. We burden the costs, probably not the right term for that, but we take the cost for, small vehicles, ambulances, our buildings, our utilities, all the maintenance associated with our buildings, our parking lot deterioration, everything, just like you have a home, that's ours to maintain. The municipality doesn't fund that. The municipality doesn't, we don't have public works come and change our light bulbs and paint our buildings. We
Right.
fund that all ourselves. So our budget's been the same for 15-ish years, close to 20. I don't think we're near 20 years, but there really hasn't been any variation, as far as what we ask for out of the municipality.
I personally am very grateful for the service provided
We appreciate
and
it.
want to say thank you, and I think we give very little for the amount that we all get back. So thank you. Thank you, all you guys.
I'm sorry? The ambulance?
Yeah, if anybody doesn't have any questions on that.
Any questions in this, on this page, 2200?
Next is 2,400, page 51, catching on. Again, fuel and lubricants is the only topic I believe that was, that any adjustments were made. Combining the two EMS and fire budgets together, we're still under $300,000.
What are the contract service fees? Second line.
Well, and actually, I don't have an exact answer for that.
Which,
Oh,
where you at?
Ambulance
Contract
services,
service
Second line
fees,
item.
second line item,
$3,000.
2730.
the
Stretchers.
stretcher maintenance. Yeah.
I heard that from
There's-
somewhere. Stretchers.
Once a year, we have to get every stretcher and every ambulance inspected and fixed and repaired.
The third party that comes in.
Yes.
and
Third,
does
yeah,
that.
you don't want to do it. You don't want to hold the liability on yourself.
Oh, no.
Stretchers carry people as patients, but
That's every other year, you said,
annually.
annually?
Yeah, annually they come in.
$20,000 hike.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's
either.
what I'm looking at, too. The fuel, $20,000.
I can explain part of that.
20
The
grand?
two hospitals based here in Monroeville have suddenly started, not suddenly, but started using Monroeville EMS to transfer their patients out. So we are putting way more mileage on the ambulances because Forbes and the East, they'll get a critical patient and they'll call us to get them transferred down to Allegheny General, Presby,
yeah.
West Penn.
So you don't put that burden on the insurance company? I mean, does the insurance company cover that?
The insurance company covers the ambulance bill. I don't know that it covers the fuel and maintenance.
What about the hospitals? Don't they reimburse you for something if they're going to ask you to transport from here to town?
There's an EMS, there's a insurance bill, kind of like pretty much the same as it would be a patient, us going to your residence. The mileage that comes out on it is a couple dollars per ambulance call. So there isn't a significant increase on any ambulance call based on mileage. So Pittsburgh's, 12 miles?
Well, it's not even a guarantee that they're going to pay.
So regardless if you are picking up a patient here to go to
the
East
city,
versus
like,
here,
the same price. It's preset for that facility, from like Forbes Regional to, say,
Corey,
AGH.
can you go in front of the microphone, please?
Slide over.
Thank you.
So Corey, it's not set up mileage-wise.
It is mileage-wise, but like from Garden City to Forbes Regional, that's already preset in their computer. They already have that down, so it comes out on the bill as this amount, and they won't go over that. So if we go, say, we have a transfer from Forbes Regional to Pittsburgh, or Presby or something
Yeah.
like that, that's a preset.
After the budget.
What those numbers are, I do not know.
Who determines those transfers? I just mean, to the taxpayers, it's an additional, you're asking $20,000 more in fuel. It's just,
What the transfers were set up and how we did set them up was to offset and to help fund the EMS. So what that has changed is that has now put 24-hour, 7 days a week coverage, EMS, in more than just one station. Okay, it's 100% volunteer, it was, but now you have number 4, that's their business, is EMS. So now you have number 6, number 1, that on their transfer days, now we have 2 facilities that have ALS staffed ambulances ready to go. So even if we're going, say, if we get a call and for a transfer, we get another Delta 2, we're not waiting for home response no more. That our element has changed. We're leaving the station with a full fixed crew, which is actually life-saving. And it's proved in
Not
itself.
that, but the municipal calls have gone up by
Yes.
1,200 calls a year.
I don't know what my true numbers are, EMS-wise, monthly, but I can go, we were 300 calls a year, and we're a lot more than that, roughly. And it does,
than that. It just seems like a lot of fuel.
Well,
It is.
as a suggestion, I would say monitor it coming into 2018, because looking at it, you're over a little bit about $1,000 a month over that. You seem to be on budget for this year with respect to that. I mean, if it goes up, we'll keep monitoring it and see what it's like, and if it's too much, obviously, we can lower that for next year, or for 19. Very good.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I mean, if that's what your recommendation is, in Ron, in culmination with all the fire chiefs, okay, we'll take a look at it, and we'll monitor it, and as we do the budget every month, and see where it's going next year.
It's always better to come under.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
And-
budgeting as much as an
Yeah.
art as it is a science.
Yeah, for us to be a little prepared in case, but if it comes under, great. But we need the service and appreciate it, and so,
Any questions about ambulance service, council?
nope, nope, nope.
But if we need a couple $1,000s to tweak something here, we know where to get it, though.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, get it off free, guys.
yeah.
I'm kidding, all right. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Now we're going to discuss the police department.
Come if you got
Doug
them.
Cole, our fire chief, or our police chief.
Oh, we can talk about all that.
Well,
Give us a page.
29,
Thank you, Tim.
unless you want to start on any revenue, Doug.
Our revenue stream pretty much stays the same. We budget as best we can for that. It's somewhat, obviously, based on the amount of citations that we write, based on what we get back on fines and things like that. We have some core basic revenues that go with taking care of certain items that, specifically the training center, where we get certain money there. So that's where our revenues stay. Some of the revenues, too, are also reimbursements associated with different task forces that our officers work with. The Monroeville Mall details that we work, both for PennDOT and for different traffic details, speed enforcement details that we get reimbursed from. So if you look at some of our revenues in the reimbursement size, they've been a lot higher than what we anticipated. One case on patrol, I think we anticipated 85,000, and we're currently at the 179,000 mark.
Wow, nice.
Doug, you have the, I don't want to jump ahead, but you do have the 85,000 as a negative in the expense under police patrol. That's not in the revenue, too, because I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Oh, yeah, we have it today. We do have a budget. If you're talking about revenues, then specifically, I'll just, throw numbers out there, but specifically, the revenue items are associated with what we generate from generating soliciting permits, and of course, what we get back from the fines, that part of the fine that we get on citations in certain criminal cases.
I mean, for the overtime.
Say again?
I mean, for the overtime, you don't have that in the revenue.
I don't. I have it on, I've read budget
Because
items.
Josie and I have talked about that, and we're thinking about doing that maybe down the line, instead of netting that out.
Right,
Thought it was always kind of unusual that you look at the budget and it says negative,
correct.
Yeah, and that's what
That
we're
you shouldn't
talking
have
about.
that.
Yeah.
where you're debiting a debit, I guess, to become a positive, something like that in budgeting. So, yeah, it always was a little bit unusual. Kind of like the same thing you just saw with the fire department, the pass-through that we have to do for the Relief Association. You look at that on a numbered item, it looks like it's huge, and it really isn't. There's
Right, because they have
200,000.
revenue to offset it.
Yeah,
And the
offset.
revenue's in finance.
Absolutely.
So the reimbursement for the revenues you're talking about for some of these special details
Are all in the operating budget.
on the revenue side,
No, correction,
No,
they're actually in the debit side, I guess.
What I'm talking about, on page 33, the third line down, there's a negative 85. That's what Doug's talking about on the overtime.
as far as the,
Page
no, as far as the
33?
revenue, we could go to, stick with revenue for a second. When you say how the reimbursement and then also any kind of citation fees, things of that nature, how are those itemized on the revenue side?
They're just,
Are they as, because we have police patrol and then police support services.
I'll have to-
Why are you guys jumping?
on the revenue side of it, they're, I think that we just anticipate what we, I prefer that to accounting.
Read that right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, I was looking at page one on the revenue.
On page 26 is the revenue under police patrol, police support services. This is the revenue we get in from citations. We get it back from the state. For every citation that's written, we get a certain amount of money. Accident reports, people request accident reports, there's a fee for that. Vendor permits, false burglar alarms. We also have a state liquor control transfer. Those are the revenues, and what we're talking about is that we get, as the chief said, we get from details from down at the mall. If a construction company is doing work and they need police protection, there's an overtime detail for that. And that should be as a revenue too, in the revenue, instead of netting out under the expenses. That's just for the benefit of the council.
Very good. Chief?
Currently,
Floor is
obviously open for any questions, but currently, we're budgeted for 43, correction, we're budgeted this year for 46 officers. We only have 43. We've been in a hiring process. It's taken a little bit longer than we anticipated. My goal is to hire officers in December. I'd like to hire 4, even though initially we wanted to hire 3, because the current officers, we now have another 4 officers that are going to be eligible starting in January to retire from the department. So in reality, we won't be really increasing, the department will stay at 46, so that's what we're budgeted for next year. Those officers are all on the patrol side of things, any of the new hire officers. Certainly, I'm open to any questions on the budget.
And as far as if you said there's a few officers that meet the criteria of retiring, but that doesn't necessarily mean they will. But if they do or decide to, we would still have the certified list to hire from.
And that's correct. That's what actually it became kind of interesting this year, and how long that took us to get through. There were some how do I want to put it, roadblocks that were thrown up, not of our own fault, nor of the Civil Service Commission's fault. That just kind of threw into how we were doing our physical agility and items that needed to be taken care of that we didn't have control over. So those officers currently that I mentioned, the 4 off the current list, which was certified in July, those officers are already in the process of finishing up. They've gone through the medical, they've gone through the polygraph, the background, currently gone through the medical, and we're waiting to get a psychological done on them. So they'll be ready to go here, hopefully by next week.
We could extend that list an extra year, so it's 2 years, so it'd be July of, I guess, 2019.
2019.
It would still be a good...
Because we'll be hiring more people off that list. The reason we again got 6 or 7 people we started in the process, and we had at least 2 that voluntarily withdrew as we started further into the process. So yeah,
So the
these
public
4
understands we have been trying to get this list done, to get through
Absolutely.
this, to bring these men on. We have not been holding back for any reason. And as soon as we get there, they're coming on.
coming on, absolutely. And the unique thing about hiring now that I've seen over my certainly since 1997 when I was the assistant chief, been involved in the process now at least 3 or 4 times, that this time around it's a little bit different as to when we get officers. We get them coming from other departments just by the way our rules are, and when they get to past the physical agility, the written test, oral interview, physical agility, many of them then really evaluate what they're doing, and they decide to stay with the departments they're with.
Okay.
Something I haven't seen the past couple. Certainly all the past. They would take whatever they could to come here.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different now. So we're just seeing a different way of hiring, and that's true across the country. That's not just to us.
Yeah.
Everybody's having that issue. Law enforcement has been pretty much a changing profession here in the past 2 or 3 years, especially with hiring individuals. We still get good quality individuals. We're still a sought-after place to work in Western Pennsylvania, but this year I was a little surprised how long it took us to get through the process.
So your biggest increase in that whole department is healthcare.
It's healthcare stuff that I can't.
It's just out of control.
Any control? Yeah.
And the OPEB.
And the OPEB, absolutely.
I do, Doug, I have a question too. When Josie and I met with you and Karen, and again, it's been 2 months since I've met with the department heads, at least 3 months. We're going to, if council is agreeing to the budget, if they do, and part of that is hiring another full-time dispatcher. And one of the things that we talked about is we have overtime here, and our overtime is really high for the dispatch center, and it's budgeted next year for $95,000. That should be reduced, and I would think.
I would absolutely be
Yeah.
reduced. You know, and one of the advantages of hiring another full-time dispatcher, we have
Page
a...
is that?
I'm on page 31, Emergency Communications, 2110 Department.
Yeah, for the, I guess for the public here, underneath my purview here is obviously Police Administration, Emergency Communications Center, Patrol Division, Support Services, Criminal Investigation Division, Police Training Division, Community Safety Division, which you'll see, School Crossing Guards, Public Safety Training Center. So they're the ones that, I maintain those budgets.
Is another dispatcher in our budget now, Mr. Little?
In this current budget, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
As of this point, we're at $103,000 in overtime.
that is correct.
That's correct.
Dispatch.
That is correct.
We have 8 full-time employees.
And
And what's-
103,000.
What's happened is automatically every pay period, we have 6 overtime shifts, no matter what. 6 shifts that we're short just because of only having, we keep 2 people staffed in there 24/7. And certainly, the dispatch center, in addition to just, they've taken on more duties besides dispatching and being current with all the national and state standards that they have to be current with. They watch our prisoners, they certainly take care of all the records that we have, and we have to get records for people. You can come in and get a record really almost any time of the day or night. They do just the building security, if you want to call that. They monitor, obviously, the cameras that are currently at the intersections as well as the building cameras here. And it's, if you talk to anybody, the back end of that, they do all the other access to these record databases that we have to get into, i.e. JNet, which is a Justice Network, NCIC Clean, which is the stolen vehicles. They enter all that. They do what's associated with the full-service dispatch center. And in addition to that, they are, EME trained, and they do all the fire EMS side of it. They help maintain the record management system. So it's not just, they've taken on many more duties as we've played, as technology's changed.
Well, this person's going to pay for themselves just from the overtime.
And one of the things I'd like to...
So there would be absolutely no overtime if there was another employee?
No, there would still be overtime. And then, but
It's not going to pay for itself.
But there would still be, it would be a lot less.
Well, they're going to
Okay,
pay for
and-
themselves by, you're going to cut that number
Way in half,
significantly.
yeah. The other back end of this, too, is that it will free up, on some days, the supervising dispatcher, Jim Tomasic, to be able to help us out with some of the information services side of things that we have to do. We try to stay on the cutting edge.
So
of
if
the
you're
dispatch.
looking at an employee, you're talking with benefits and everything, around $90,000. Am I correct?
I'm going to
I don't think
Dispatchers
I don't
don't
think it's
make-
that high, Steve. It's, I'd go more like 70, 75, maybe.
Just asking.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't need to tell you, Steve, obviously, as they get
No, no,
more
that's
years on the
fine.
job, they get more years on the job, more vacation, more issues, there's just more time that we end up, dealing with the staffing levels of 8 people trying to staff 24/7 and 2 people.
Yeah, that's a tough assignment.
I got just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
The dispatch folks and the secretaries, they're all in the same union, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there a reason for that? Because I'm curious. You would think they'd be in their own.
I can tell you.
Communications.
Before my
I
time.
can tell you,
Just, to me, it doesn't
sometime,
make sense.
a
It
long
doesn't.
time ago, when we had the little building here, the dispatchers technically were clerical.
Oh,
They didn't-
really?
They didn't do as much radio work and phone answering as now. As time went on and that started separating and, computer specialists and all that, the dispatchers applied downtown to become their own union. The municipality sent the solicitor down to object to that because they thought they already had too many unions, and the judge agreed.
Oh.
So he combined
The
the
secretaries and the
dispatch.
I'm just curious.
Could it be split? Seems like it should be, as the
me,
dispatch
it
is
makes
growing.
more
Now it's way separate.
That's what I was just talking to
Well,
Nick
shouldn't
about.
we look at that in negotiations?
I think we should
I mean,
try and
Yeah,
split them.
I think it is something that should be looked at, because for the benefit of the public, we have clerical people that are in the dispatchers are in the same union with the clerical people. And most of the municipalities in Allegheny County are with Allegheny County 911. But if you go back 30, 40 years ago, most dispatchers in communities, they were not in a union because they cannot be in the police union. So they were not in a union. But as time marched on, and if they did get into a union, I worked in one municipality where they were in a public works union. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of dispatchers if they are, going to have a collective bargaining agreement. But the point being is that we have secretaries and clerical staff that if they want to be trained, and they've been working as a secretary, for instance, for 25 years, but technically under the union contract, if they wanted to be trained, they could apply for being a dispatcher. And it makes for filling positions with respect to clerical staff in the administrative office. It makes for somewhat of a difficulty. If the dispatchers had their own union, it would be much easier.
I think we need to look into that. Someone needs to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in those days, obviously, anybody could come in and be a dispatcher,
Right.
sit there at the desk and do a couple
Right.
things. Now they
And
need
it's not
over
like that.
PEMA, Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association, is the one that governs what they do, as well as ABCO, which is a national organization. And by the time one of those new dispatchers, one of those part-time dispatchers gets put out on his own to dispatch, he has well over 670 hours of instruction.
Wow,
So
that's
it takes,
nice.
it's a long, it's almost, it's a lot of, and that's the other issue is, we can't keep the part-timers, which is one of the other issues, the overtime's occurring there, to keep enough time to keep them current. So they got to work enough hours every month as a part-timer to keep current with the technology.
That's understandable.
And that's
So
the
it would
issue.
make sense to actually split the unions, or,
Oh, it would make sense to split the union, I agree, but it would also make sense to have the extra person full-time right now.
Let's-
Even though I know it doesn't entitle benefits and everything else
Yeah,
associated with it.
good.
What's next?
The budget in the camera, or the UHF radios?
The radio system, well, obviously the dispatchers are going to be getting some new stuff there too. We're certainly still in the process with the radio system because of grant funding. Grant funding, we're waiting to be acknowledged, again, not of any fault of our own, but a fault of the fact that the state budget didn't get passed. The state budget finally did get passed, so they were supposed to have this meeting in July. They're finally having that meeting on November 14th. We'll get approved for what we're getting with the grant money. The second that they give us the authority to start spending that down, which I hope to be the next week after that, we will be in position that we've done the research and we're ready to go on signing a contract to get the radio system
It'd be
upgraded.
like
And what would our match?
Thanksgiving.
What would our match be?
Well, again,
This is somewhere around $1 million, correct?
the system we currently are looking at is $910,000. So part of this is there was a bunch of we'll just call them incentives by Motorola to lower it by about $100,000. So we have it divided up into radio consoles in the radio room and then radio infrastructure, which includes 4 sites with all the microwaves, the repeaters, the transmitters, the receivers, the antennas, and everything that goes with
So
that.
we're looking at a grant to cover at least half of that?
Well, the goal was I know we have $100,000 of it right now in the grant. That's the part that we don't know, and we won't know to the 14th. It was applied for, making a long-winded here, it was applied for $500,000 toward that event. Now, in addition to that, there's $200,000 that'll be coming out of the asset seizure account that we currently have funding for that. So the cost of the municipality could be as little as I say municipality, meaning out of the budget, as little as 210 or as high as 500,000.
We can't have, depending on the amount of money we get in the grant, we can't spend any money now because if we do, we couldn't use that money as a match.
It's a match, absolutely.
All right, so that's why we've had to hold off on this. But we have saved up, for the lack of a better term, we have about $700,000, and that is counting the $100,000 we do have currently.
And the asset seizure money.
The asset
So I don't want
seizure
people to
money,
think
and we
that's added
also,
on top.
for the benefit of those people who come to our meetings all the time, back in the spring, we opened up council-approved, Public Communications Fund, which we did a bond refunding in May, and we received, it's like when you refinance your house, you might get extra money back. Well, it's kind of the same thing. And we took money from that, $200,000, and we put it into that Public Communications Fund. Now, in that Public Communications Fund, for the benefit of the public, how this is going to be paid, we have about $350,000 in that. In the asset seizure, we have about $250,000, and plus the $100,000 in the grant, so that's about $700,000. And we're hoping, as Chief Cole just said, we're hoping to get more money on this grant, so obviously the smaller amount that the municipality will have to pay. And that's all going to be coming out of capital. That's not in the operational budget.
But worth every single penny.
I
However
concur.
we have to get there, it's worth every single penny
I
for
think
the
the other-
benefit of the community, to the safety of our officers, our EMS, our firemen, and everybody that lives here, so that everyone understands how important it is that we get there, and we are working like crazy.
I agree.
And the Chief Cole advised me during the Public Safety Committee meetings that he has made handshake deals with better locations for our repeater and microwave sites. Channel 40 across in the valley to cover the lower part of Monroeville. Channel 22, or what we knew as Channel 22, up on the Illini Hill. There's a handshake deal to put repeaters up there. The Monroeville Mall is going to allow us to put a microwave site in there, so the police and even fire and EMS all have better coverage when they're in the Monroeville Mall. So there's 4 sites being added. We're actually going to be capable of putting up a 5th one. We'll wait to see how that radio coverage works out. In the interim, all the rented Verizon phone lines that go to our repeaters now are going to be able to be dropped. So, though it doesn't save us hundreds of thousands, it saves us money.
Approximately 2,000 a year per site that we were doing. That's absolutely
Yeah, because we rent phone lines.
Red phone. And just one of the important things that everybody, we've heard some talk about the fact that, hey, well, we want you to switch over right now, you can do it right now. Councilman Harvey's very correct. We only have one transmitting site currently on all our channels, whether it's Public
the
Works.
Crown Tower, too.
It's up at the Crown Tower. This site here is going to take 3 frequencies at the UHF band, be able to, obviously, police, fire, and EMS on another one, and whatever, we have a second channel, administrative or a fireground or what do you want to call it, tactical channel to go to, and they're going to come off of 4 different transmitters at the same time, 4 different sites that give us real good coverage. This system is going to be engineered. It's going to be a portable-based engineered system, so you can talk on a portable radio and hopefully get 95% coverage of the municipality, which is all you can ever get 100%. So that's what we're looking at. I'm very confident it's going to be a very functional system, and it'll take the municipality for the next 30 years with no problem at all. It has the capability of being upgraded to a trunk system, which is like a cellular system in the future if we have to do that. It'll be state-of-the-art. The consoles are the exact same consoles that the 911 center uses. They're in the process of buying 140 of them, to throw some numbers at the public, for $150,000 a piece. You figure that out. To put them out at the new dispatch center the county's going to in Moon Township, because they're moving it out to Moon Township. So this is going to be interacted with that. It'll give our platform for all the fire, EMS, and police in our municipality to talk to anybody in the county. So it's the good system. It's the right system. We need to do it. And just so everybody knows, the system that we currently have is 1982 technology. The police system is 1979, 79, 80. So that technology. So we got the work out of these systems. We got the use out of these systems. So
So we need to get this done.
we need to
I'm
get it
excited
done.
about this new
I
system.
hope it'll be signed off by the end of the month.
Thank you. Very good.
Yes.
Any other questions? Got more on that? Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
your time.
All right, folks, in an effort to move on to our work session, our agenda-setting meeting, I know there's some individuals here waiting for that meeting. I'm going to seek to close this portion of the meeting, the budget hearing. We have 2 more people or 2 more departments to discuss, Human Resources, and then Mr. Little with his Manager, Finance, and the Mayor and Council departments. We can do that at a later time, but I would suggest we get onto our meeting because the public that's here.
Yeah.
We don't need to keep them
Second.
all night. Okay, seeing no opposition, we're going to close that portion of the meeting, and we're going to open up our agenda-setting meeting, our Citizens' Night meeting for November 9th. And I'm going to open up the floor for public comment on any municipal item. You could comment certainly on the budget discussion we just had, or you could comment on any municipal item.
No one?
The floor is open for anyone who would like to comment.
Since everybody's bashful, I'm not.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Serafini. I'm a Monroeville resident. I just wanted to say two short things. I want to thank everybody and congratulate everybody who got elected.
Thank you.
I see he's already taken the chair. Anyway, my big thing is, we recently voted on some things for the home rule charter. I think, since we're going to be doing this quite often in every election, I think we ought to advertise this before the elections. I think there was a lot of people who didn't know what was going on, and I think in the paper, the local paper, it should definitely be advertised. It's a small cost item for something that helps everybody. That's my only comment.
That's a great comment, because actually I had a lot of feedback about that, and I have over the past several days. We had it on the municipal website. There were some articles about it in the paper, and we discussed it, but certainly not everybody watches the meetings. But I would agree with Mr. Serafini. I think we need to do a better job of trying to get that word out, because it's a lot for people to try to digest right there at the polls if they didn't really know what they were getting
agree.
into. Now, just for the public, all those questions did pass, and that was a positive thing. The committee worked on this for several months, and they were all good things for the home rule charter. But maybe for the next round of questions, we need to do a better job of
I mean, since we're going to be doing this quite often.
exactly.
Well,
And we can maybe start with like the water authority bill and just make sure everybody's getting
Well, and
copies of
Mr.
these
Little
things.
put a great little synopsis together, and then Mr. Ritter, thank you, Mr. Ritter, came around and put them up at the polls. Even if we would add that thing, do it sooner, Mr. Little, we could put them at the senior center, we could put them at the library, we could have it on the front doors here.
That'll generate the
That's all, I
Yes.
think it's all
Agreed.
good, a way to get the word out and let people see, what they're, so that they understand a little bit better.
Right.
But, great.
But they all passed, but there's some growing pains with that, and what we'll do is we'll try to do it better the next time around, next election.
Once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're the new mayor-elect?
I am, but today I'm the deputy mayor. Mayor Cinco is actually
and
out
I'm
of
sorry, what's your
town.
name?
Nick Griesok.
Okay, I'm Jim Starr,
right,
and I'm
Jim.
here representing Glen Arden Phase 2. Just to give you a little background, the Starr family has quite a bit of land in Monroeville, approximately 200 acres, held under different companies. And I'm here to talk about Glen Arden Phase 2. We did Phase 1 initially. We turned Phase 1 over to Monroeville, and Monroeville got that done. Now we're here at Glen Arden Phase 2, and this has been 14 years, and it's been very difficult dealing with Monroeville, specifically with the people in the, the engineering department. It has been very, very difficult. Let me give you a brief history. This is 14 years. Let me give you 6 months of history, because this history repeats itself. And it's Groundhog Day. Okay, back in June, mid-June, the engineering department got a stormwater study to review and to take care of for 2 outlet structures. It's been since mid-June. It's 5 months later. They haven't reviewed it. This has been amazing. 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting with some of the people here, and they said that in a few weeks they would have it reviewed. It hasn't been reviewed. Now, I don't have an engineering background, but I do remember back in school, as a junior in school, we studied water flow through tubes, and we had to calculate that, and we calculated it the old-fashioned way. Right now, you can go and you can get online how water flows through tubes, fill in the blanks, and you have it like that. We've been waiting 5 months for information to do this. And this is how it's gone with Monroeville this entire time. One time we had to wait 2 years for a punch list. Last year we were in the same situation where we were waiting months for a stormwater study. This is, so in the meantime, we were down to the last 2 items. The last 2 items we had to do, 2 outlet structures. All of a sudden, on October 13th, we get handed a brand new list. Over 14 years, we had not had the items on this list, except for the items there. This is a brand new list. And when it was given to me, I talked to Jamie Story. And it was actually before that I talked to Jamie Story. He said, I did it to you again. And what he's referring to is every time this thing gets done, the goalposts get moved. You never can have a complete list out of Monroeville.
Well, whenever some of these things, especially when there's a long time lapse in items, laws change and rules change. And maybe that's what, when you refer to the goal line moving or the goalpost moving, that might be what's going on. Have you set up a meeting with Mr. Little by chance? Have you ever met with him?
Yes, we have.
But maybe we need to reschedule something more recent to discuss this current event, and we can kind of go through this and make this happen, and make this, rectify.
Well,
the
that's what I want to
situation.
do. I'm here
Sure.
to get this thing done. But I'm also here because I think it's important that you as the mayor, we have 200 acres, that I think it'd be good in the interest of the municipality if we sit down and talk about what our concerns are, how we're going to get this thing done. And, I'd like to just go on for a few more things here if I could, because it's pretty astonishing just in this last period of time. Jamie said I did it to you again. Gave me the new punch list. You have to understand, this punch list for all these new items, this last sheet has all the items that are approved. All these things Monroeville has accepted. They've said that they're all fine and they're all meet code, or whatever it is, the standards. Well, one of the things on here is putting a camera down storm sewer. They put the camera down the storm sewer, and so they say they want to have it replaced. I said to Jamie Story, I said, is this a standard? Do you do this with other projects? He said, no, there is no standard. I think they targeted us, and I think we have been targeted all along with this.
Well, Mr. Starr, I think what we need to do, let's schedule an appointment for you to come in,
Well,
Mr. Little.
Okay.
I think that would rectify this in a more professional manner and get it done quickly.
When you
if
talk
we-
about 14 years, isn't this a street that originally wasn't adopted by Monroeville?
It is a street they have, Monroeville has not adopted Glen Arden Phase 2.
Right, so they're not technically responsible for that.
Well,
Until they
technically,
adopt.
but they aren't. But the whole point is they aren't cooperating to get this done. It has been nothing but obstacles. And let me just say one more thing. And I think with this, I said we are incurring costs. One of the detention ponds they want us to fix is not even part of Glen Arden Phase 2. They want us to fix it. It's a property of Monroeville. We've been doing work on that, and I've told Monroeville they're going to be billed for this. For us doing work on something that Monroeville owns, we're going to send a bill. When I said that, Paul Yugas said, then if you do that, these items that are approved, we're just going to unapprove them. And we're going to make you go back and do these other things.
Like I said, let's set up a meeting.
But, okay, one more thing.
No, that's I think your time is up, your point has been made, and I think what we need to do is set up a meeting. Mr. Little will be there. I can be there as the deputy mayor.
I think it'd be
Mayor
great.
Sinkel will be there as well, and we can get the engineering department as well involved, and we can get this taken care of. I understand your frustration with this, and I would agree with you that, yeah, let's get these 200 acres moving in the right direction for Monroe. I think it'd be a positive thing, and we need to make it happen.
Well, I
So
agree,
we
and that's
could-
why I'm here.
So I'm assuming we have your contact information?
Yes, you certainly do.
Yeah, so-
And just let me say one more thing, if you don't mind,
about
what...
No, sir, I actually do mind.
Okay,
We
okay,
have a
well
long
then-
meeting tonight, and we want to give everybody a
That's
proper
fine.
opportunity
Okay,
to
all right,
speak.
thank you very
But we
much.
can definitely
Okay.
speak, and we will set up a meeting, and we'll answer all your questions at that time.
Okay, great, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Deputy Mayor, can I say something real quick?
Yes.
Mr. Starr and I could sit here until midnight and banter back and forth at each other. And I will tell you that there's two sides to every story. And we did have a meeting with Mr. Starr, Mr. Little, and Mr. Ratcher to go over a lot of these things. And there's two sides to this. Just, I want the public to know.
Understood. And I think that's, a lot of situations are, but I think we can all get it rectified in a positive manner and satisfy all the requirements that Monroeville has for all of its properties. There's rules, there's codes, there's ordinances, resolutions, there's taxes, that it's fair for everybody and across the board, and everyone has to be accountable and follow these rules and ordinances. But we've discussed this enough. Mr. Little, maybe could your secretary contact Mr. Starr, set up an appointment, and then we'll see if we can rectify this.
Okay, great, thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. floor is still open for Citizens Night on any municipal item.
Good evening. I am Jan Rawson. I live in Monroeville. This is my neighbor, Pat Wynn, and we are here for the VASA Professional Building.
Could you guys sign your names in, please?
If there's a sheet right.
Sign your name.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, just so that you know, we met with Mr. Finnegan and all of the parties concerned. It was a good meeting, but some of the conditions that we had discussed, I think we should bring before council so that you are aware of some of the things that we had agreed upon at this meeting.
Between the two parties?
Between the two parties.
Okay.
Ms. Ruff, for the benefit of the public, I think you're talking about the VASA property on
VASA,
Old
which is
William
at-
Penn High?
yes,
Okay, all right.
VASA
okay,
Professional
all right.
Building, which is on Old William Penn Highway.
Right, okay.
And the reason that Pat and I are here is because our properties abut their properties, and very close. And so that was the reason we had met with them. We understand that we can't stop it from going in because of the zoning. But however, we were able to reach some agreements between the two parties. And some of our concerns were the runoff of the water that comes down that hill to Old William Penn. And they reassured us, the stormwater management, we get an awful lot of runoff that comes down there in a storm or anything. So they reassured us that they have some work that they'll be doing with stormwater, and it may even, in fact, help our property. So we said, okay. And we were concerned about the sidewalks. And as long as they abide by all the ordinances, we don't have that big of a problem. However, we were concerned about the right-of-ways. And they told us that there would be at least 50 foot between our properties and their property. So that would be all of the right-of-ways. And we were concerned about the parking lot lights, and they agreed that they would shine down and they wouldn't illuminate, out. And what
So
were some of the other
they
things?
basically, I mean, we had a very good meeting.
It was a positive meeting.
It was
Just
very
to be-
po-
Just to be clear, Mr. Hugus, so are the conditions they're discussing or bringing up right now, are they in the conditions on your end?
That's our concern.
That's our concern.
I will pass this off to Mr. Wheeler.
Or are you just learning about these conditions now?
They are not official conditions in any approval. This was a conversation that happened between the residents and the applicant. These have not been written into the resolution.
Right, and the reason we're here is to find out if this is all going to be documented.
Can we get
Like I
them
s-
three together?
Well, if they're
Well-
here, can they,
And also, too, just, we could add those things this evening. We could add those things on Tuesday before we approve it,
Yes.
if it's agreed upon. So there is time,
Right.
we don't have to, it doesn't have to be done tonight.
No.
These kind of things can be,
Right.
finalized before it's approved on Tuesday's meeting.
And
So it
also,
wouldn't have to go before this board again.
And I would probably recommend maybe Tuesday be the better time, because that way, we want to make sure everything's right, that you're satisfied, that our department's satisfied.
And they're
then-
satisfied.
and then the developer's satisfied as well.
Yeah.
That everything's just on the up and up, and then we can digest that over the weekend.
We knew that they had a meeting. We didn't know what the substance of the meeting
Okay.
was. So
so
once
you
we
need to
hear
be
from
given,
them.
they need to be given the verbiage as well. Our engineering
Looking down
department
my
to put
list.
it,
Yeah, we have
but
copies.
also.
to make sure that they agree on that.
Right, and also the buffer zone that we had discussed. The 50-foot right-of-way between our properties and theirs, that we had discussed a privacy wall and also a retaining wall with a 6 to 7 foot pine trees covering that, facing our property. We had suggested as an example, the fence that is up at Giant Eagle on Stroshine Road. That's a really nice looking fence.
Oh, you mean the privacy wall there?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
privacy wall, and they said that they could do the privacy wall, and we're concerned about her property, because it sits high, the retaining wall.
So they're good with that, Jan? I mean,
We discussed it.
so you guys are all happy?
They
Is
were,
that-
yeah.
So they would agree to the additional conditions,
I
that we
believe-
just have to have it written
When
in.
we get our turn, we'll comment, and generally what they're saying is okay.
Yes, just for the public's information, we're at Citizens Night right now, and we'll let these citizens speak. The developer and his attorney are both present tonight, and whenever we discuss this item in our agenda-setting meeting, they'll be up and they'll be discussing this further. But we'll just let you finish your comments, but we'll make sure we discuss this fully from both ends.
Well, basically, that was it. And naturally, if any of the shrubs die, they're responsible to replace them, anything facing our property.
Okay.
So-
Now, you'll have to get that list to Mr. Hughes or Mr. Wielden.
We can
And
do that.
please, yeah, if you could do that.
Great.
Great.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and I would just like to reiterate what Mr. Serafini said. I get a little frustrated with the fact that so many things are going on in Monroeville and the public doesn't know about it. I don't understand why things aren't put in the Times Express.
Like what?
Well, just like this development. I mean, we didn't really see anything in the paper about this development going in.
Well,
I mean,
that's the
yeah, they
paper- that's
posted
the
the orange
papers,
sign.
though.
I'm going, pardon me?
That's the papers, not us putting in the paper. I mean, TV 15 usually has a pretty good accounting of what's going on, as far as the public being able to follow.
Well, it's like
It's on our
Mr.
it's on our
Serafini said,
website.
like the 4 referendums. You know, I worked
Well,
the
that, we
polls-
agreed to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm just reiterating
Yeah.
what he
Right.
said, yeah.
But we try to get that, we try to get it out there, and what the paper puts in, the paper puts in. That's not always our choice, unless we pay to have something put in, you know,
But
to
the-
like advertise.
And the agenda for the meetings are always on the website prior to the meeting, so this
Always.
would have been
Right,
found on the
but with
website.
the demographics of Monroeville, the majority of people that vote don't have computers.
I would agree with you.
Yes.
But even if we go back, let's go back 30 years, agendas were always available here, and they still are.
The library.
At the library as
Yes.
well. So we do our best to inform people about what's going on, but
No offense, but the people over on Saunders Station aren't paying much attention to the development we're talking about here.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. I'm basically talking about the referendums that were on the
Oh,
ballot.
those,
we
you're
agree
you're
with that.
100% on
Right,
with that.
right.
Yes.
very good.
Well, our third ward has a lot of new development going in, apparently.
It does.
Apparently.
And
Well,
apparently,
proposed.
and like with the school rezoning there, I think that should have maybe been published in the paper for the residents to
Was.
see, or on
Yeah, there
the
was.
ballot to see if the residents were in agreement.
Can't.
You
Not allowed.
can't do that.
Yeah, that's not a referendum.
But it's a lot of activity in the third ward.
Yeah, and we put it out there as much as we can,
Yeah.
as much as we're allowed.
It just seems like our little residential section is becoming a
gone.
commercial development, and, you know, our privacy's disappearing.
And the traffic there is
Traffic is
horrendous.
building up. It's just not what it used to be, and I'm not opposed to progress, but
Right.
seems like it's all centralized all around us.
Very good. But to be clear, though, your opinion of this development that you're discussing, those conditions satisfy?
We don't
Both of
have a
you?
whole lot of choice,
Yeah,
naturally.
since we can't stop it,
We can't stop it.
I
we're
got you.
pleasantly
So-
pleased with
My-
what the
my point
developer
is
They have
has
tried to
on your
work
proposed.
with
Okay.
us to make
That's
us
good.
happy.
Pardon?
I said, my point on in general, on your comment is that you wouldn't believe how many advertisements on developments that we put out there and not a person shows up.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, we put advertisements out, we posted on telephone poles,
Yeah.
and this council chambers is empty.
Yes.
But if you could get that
They're
list,
gonna work with you, though,
Yeah,
from
but
what
if-
I can hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really
Yes,
glad,
they
I'm really
are.
glad to hear that.
They
That's-
are.
That's, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
Yeah.
if you could hand the list.
But I've kept
that'd
you
be great.
informed on this. I said, I've kept you informed on this.
Yes, you have, Ron. Ron has kept us informed.
Good.
That's how we found out about the meeting tonight,
Okay.
because he told us.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you,
make sure you
Joan.
get your list to the gentleman.
Pat gave it to him.
Great. Thank you.
The floor is still open for public comment on any municipal item for Citizens Night.
Hello. My name is David Mintz, Monroeville resident, and I wanted to thank Mr. Little. He attended our Sustainable Monroeville meeting this past Monday, and got to speak to him and ask a few questions. And I just wanted, and we actually corresponded a little bit after that. I just wanted to make sure I understand a few basic questions that I have that we were writing about. The month before our seismic testing ordinance was passed, which was October, in September there was a meeting, a general council meeting, where there was a motion passed about Monroeville roads not being accessible for the seismic testing. And as I understand it now, that was basically passed in advance of our ordinance, just as something while we were working on the ordinance, and that was ahead of time, and I understand that now. At the same meeting that the ordinance was passed in October, there was also a motion passed about accessibility to Monroeville public lands, and as well as the ingress and egress, I guess, if they needed to get through a Monroeville public land to get to maybe private land. And that was passed actually during the same meeting prior to the passage of our ordinance, during the exact same meeting. So I just wanted to verify, since it was passed at the same meeting, is it the same situation as the month before when we passed the motion about the roads, where essentially, as I understand it, the ordinance itself now supersedes that, and if geokinetics would get a permit, if, let's say, things work so that our ordinance stands in court, and the company applies for a permit, and they do get the permit, and they abide by the permit, and they're doing their business, would they, I just want to understand, if I was in a Monroeville park, subsequent to that, and I saw somebody doing seismic testing activity, does the motion that was passed in October, is it now superseded by the ordinance in that if they do abide by the ordinance, I could see them in a Monroeville park doing seismic testing as long as they abide by all the aspects of the ordinance, or are they still prevented from being in our public lands in Monroeville? You understand my question?
Bob, you want to take that or me?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a difference
Okay.
with the sequence of
Sure.
when things were denied. I think the first thing that council denied was the right to conduct seismic testing on properties. And the reason I say that is because when...
Private or public?
I'm sorry, public properties. The reason I say that is because that was the first request that was made to the municipality as far back as maybe February.
Mm-hmm.
The request for the roadways was an addendum to the original request, and that was the one that was for roadways and rights-of-ways. So just in sequence, I think that...
I wish I had brought it with me.
Yeah.
I thought I had an actual agenda from our October regular council meeting where it was actually part of the same agenda, unless I'm, when I wrote to you, I think I said, maybe it was it October in our emails? I'm not sure. But,
Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
any case, depending on the order of those things happening, could I, as everything I said, if our ordinance stands in court, they apply for a permit, which they haven't gotten a permit yet, but if they do apply for a permit, get the permit, abide by the ordinance, could I see them as long as they, have all the proper setbacks and all the proper notifications? Could I see them in the middle of a Monroeville park putting a charge if it met all the requirements of the ordinance?
No, and the reason is because the use of the public roadways is a bit different than the use of the public lands. Monroeville has the same right to restrict them on those public lands as you would have to restrict them on your own property.
Okay.
So Monroeville just saying, no, there's no way they can overcome that. Now, the public roads and right-of-ways are a different story.
Yes, I understand. Yeah. Okay, so I understand. So that motion about public land still stands?
It does.
Regardless of everything else? If everything
Correct.
else, that still stands, I'm not going to... Okay.
Correct.
So if I would see somebody doing that and they
Yeah.
said, oh, we got permission, or we were abiding by all
No,
the
they didn't.
ordinances...
They're lying to you.
That wouldn't
Yeah.
be true.
They're lying to you.
Okay,
No,
okay. I just-
The issue is strictly with the roads and the right-of-ways.
Right. I understand
Ask
that.
to see their permit.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. That was it. I'm glad I cleared that up. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time,
you.
David.
My name's already on here. My name is Alyssa Beck. I'm representing Sustainable Monroeville. But before I do that, I want to congratulate all the newly electeds and thank everybody on council for the job they do, because I've been volunteering a lot of time, and this is taking a lot of time. So I honor you all. I'm going to put forth a question that Georgiana Woodhall had, because she had to leave, and it's for Mr. Ratcher. She's wanting the 14-page rebuttal that you wrote for geokinetics to be posted on the website, so we're just asking for that to be done. That's what we're asking to do. We saw it on the front page. We thank Dylan Carr for that. So that in the name of transparency, we can know what's going on.
Yeah, and let me just say that, I don't know whether it's on the website or not. I'm assuming it's not if you're asking for it.
Not yet.
It is a public document. It is filed publicly with the clerk of courts and district courts, so there's nothing magic about it. If we don't have it on the website, we'll get, Tim, you can get it on there, right?
Mm-hmm. No
Okay.
problem.
Here we go.
I wanted to look at, I can't resist mentioning something about Glen Arden. I had no idea about it until this moment, Phase 2. I see it as a tremendous opportunity for bioswales and ways to prevent runoff without costing very much money at all. I'll just leave that at that. I also want to put a picture for the public to see. I'm
Joe, if you could focus in on the...
I'll try, I'll
okay.
have to zoom in.
So this is the positive thing about looking at things beyond sustainable but into our regenerative future.
There
I'm
you go.
going to have to...
You slide it, bring it towards
Pull
you.
down a little bit.
Bring it towards you.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
So this just shows the number of jobs. It's called The Truth About Job Creation. For every 5 jobs in natural gas, there are 7 in coal, 13 in wind, 14 in solar, and 17 in building retrofit. So kind of setting the record straight and just honoring Monroeville for having the conversation about our regenerative future. The perception of feeling powerless is not really something we have to worry about or rationalizing, because I think we're moving forward in a great way. That all being said, I want to remind people about asking again and again that for our new mayor, mayor-elect, our new mayor, we would like to sign on to the Paris Climate Agreement as a municipality of Monroeville. We're looking for leadership there. And on Monday, November 13th, the Shale and Public Health Conference will be happening at the University of Pittsburgh. It's a day-long free event, which is very interesting to let people know about what's going on with shale development in our region. Like I said, I wound up last night by mistake in Harrison City at the Penn Township budget meeting, but I heard their opinion about fracking, and they're all for it. They're not for injection wells because they think that won't benefit the community. So it was a big wake-up call for me, and again, I'm thanking you all. That being said, we did submit a letter today to Mr. Little, and I'm not sure, and it was supposed to go through Mr.
You mean email us?
There were 2 emails today. One was about a letter that was to go to Mr. Ratcher. We were told that in order to get an email to Mr. Ratcher, it needed to go through you. And it's a letter that was sent by first-class U.S. mail and email from Protect Our Children, Stop Drilling Near Our Schools. We have to understand, for example, that Harrison City is in the same airshed as Monroeville. So as they're putting frac wells in, we are polluting our air in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. Dear members of council, Protect Our Children is writing to you regarding your oil and gas ordinance in Monroeville. Protect Our Children is a coalition of local and regional organizations dedicated to protecting school children from the health risks of shale gas drilling and infrastructure. Their goal is to limit children's exposure to harmful pollutants by keeping shale gas drilling and infrastructure away from schools. They mobilize communities to prevent, and it goes on and on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just knowing that children are particularly vulnerable to environmental hazards. So we're just reiterating on the second page, we're looking, Mr. Ratcher, for the modification of what the ordinance was, that rider.
Yes.
Are you pulling it out of your briefcase?
No, this is something else.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Um,
I'm
So
listening.
Protect Our Children Coalition urges Monroeville to incorporate the following protections in its revised ordinance. Adequate setbacks around schools and other public gathering spaces. I'm 100% aware that all of the industrial areas in Monroeville are not really within, far enough away from my airspace where I live on Trotwood Drive, not far enough away from most residents in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, because we're sharing the same airspace, and there's a whole lot of pollution that comes along with frack wells. We want strong setbacks around adjacent residential zones. We want minimum lot size restrictions for developing infrastructure. We want we already have done this to allow shale gas infrastructure in industrial zoned areas only. We've already passed that, and I thank you for that. We want to require environmental assessment and monitoring for air, water, and noise pollution that prove residents in the environment will be protected. And I want to encourage all residents in the Municipality of Monroeville to contact the organization that we had at Sustainable Monroeville on Monday night, which is going out of my
I can't remember. I can't
it's on the blog and the Facebook page for Sustainable Monroeville, but I don't have it written down. It's not in my mind right now. But they offer air monitors, and you can put them in your home, outside your home, and get pre-testing for what your air is right now. So that when the wells go up in Harrison City, in Penn Township, we can voice our concern about that and stop it. And this letter is signed by myself, Sustainable Monroeville. It's signed by Jillian Graber, Protect PT. She's the executive director. It's signed by Raina Ripple, the director of the Southwest Pennsylvania Environmental Project. It's signed by Beverly Braverman, the executive director of the Mountain Watershed Association. Signed by Joe Otis Minot, Esquire, executive director and chief counsel of the Clean Air Council. It's signed by Veronica Coptis, the executive director for the Center for Coalfield Justice. Doug Shields, the Western Pennsylvania Outreach Liaison for Food and Water Watch, Michelle Buford, the Education Program Specialist for Healthy Schools PA, Scott Taylor, the President of Protect Elizabeth Township, Larry Schweiger, the President and CEO of Penn Future, and Patrice Tomsick, the Western Pennsylvania Field Organizer for Mom's Clean Air Force. So communities in the region are banding together. We thank everybody in Monroeville for following this through, signing petitions, doing our work. But we know our work is not done because the gas industry is right on top of us right now. And our 5 minutes is done. So I am going to hand to Mr. Ersatz Arasenko one of these, Mr. Little, and our
Sharon.
Our Sharon.
Our Sharon.
Our Sharon, who is doing the hardest work here, so that you all have copies of it. Thank you.
I'll make sure Mayor Arasenko gets the document.
Well, you can keep it.
I bet you
The
would.
name of that organization, I think, is in the body.
And then, Alyssa, the letter you read from, you sent that to Mr. Little?
Or is that in this packet?
It's to go to
So,
Mr. Roger.
so we'll get that. And then also, too, if anything you want to place on certainly Sustainable
No.
Monroeville's website, just for the public's knowledge.
Yes, it is. Protect our children.
If you Google Sustainable Monroeville, it'll take you right to their website, and perhaps maybe that's the place where you could place that letter as well for the public.
The other thing I'm submitting to you is a list of chemicals used by hydraulic fracturing companies for surface and hydraulic fracturing activities provided to me by one of the members of Sustainable Monroeville.
You could just give that to Sharon, and then
Yes.
she'll make sure that we all get a copy.
Thank you.
The ones that are starred.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Henningsen. I'm a resident of Monroeville. I would like to just continue the discussion about the seismic testing. My wife and I had a visit from a permit agent who wanted permission to access our property. As I understand it, we're dealing with three organizations here. One is Huntley & Huntley, which has hired Geokinetics. And Geokinetics has hired Cougar Land Services to go around and obtain permits from local residents. My wife and I own 2.5 acres in the northern part of Monroeville. And on Saturday, October 11th, a gentleman showed up and asked for permission to install 2 geophones on our property. Now, geophones are small gadgets that are buried just below the ground, and they pick up the vibrations from, what's the word here?
From the vibration trucks?
Yeah, from the vibration trucks or from explosives that are located somewhere in the area. Now, this gentleman was very polite. It was a good, informative discussion. And he explained that what they had, somewhere in the world, a map had been developed of the northern Monroeville, and they needed to put down these geophones about 200 feet apart in a grid that covered the whole area. He was not going to everybody, but our property was one that was picked up for having 2 of these gadgets. Knowing that Monroeville had passed the seismic testing ordinance, and that contains a number of protections from the people, I didn't have really any problem with them putting the geophones in. He was asking for permission to place them there for 3 weeks within a 6-month period. Then he handed me this contract to sign. And when I looked at it, I realized that it went far beyond what he was asking us to do. And I pointed that out to him. And he said, well, he said, you can cross out any provisions here that you don't like. And you can also add conditions to this. One of the conditions I would add would have been a time frame, because the contract does not contain any limits on time. Another provision I would have added is that if you come on our property to do that, I would like access to the data you generate. I pointed that out in an earlier meeting, and I think that's what Monroeville should do with their properties. It's not common within the industry to do that. They hold this information very tight. But one reason I think that a seismic study might be useful is that it will provide some information what the underground is. I'm not in favor of doing the fracking right now, because as Elisa mentioned, we had a meeting there just a few days ago, and it's clear there are serious environmental issues involved with these facilities. As an example, one of them is that they are still allowed open ponds. So the wastewater that's pumped out of these things are stored in open ponds. And if any of you have seen the movie Gasland, you will see the number of gases that are coming off those ponds. I think the technology in the future will develop in a way that's more environmentally attractive. But I don't think it's something that should be done right now. But at the same time, for Monroeville to know what's underground, I think would be of value. It's interesting that this contract has a provision in it that says anything that they may discover in these studies is their property. Well, I'm probably misrepresenting that a little bit. Any seismic information that's generated about things that we don't know about right now would be theirs. But one of the reasons I'm bringing this to you now is, and also to the people out in TV land, we have, I believe, a highly honed document here. And I don't think it should be into lay people to go in and say, well, I don't like this, I'm going to cross this out, and I'm going to add these conditions down here. That is really my concern. And then also learning that geokinetics is actually challenging the ordinance. That would be another reason that nobody should sign this document. And I would even say to the people that have signed it, do you really know what is in there? And I would recommend you go back and cancel that until you know more about it. Now, I wrote an email, and I'm providing you this information, to the permit agent. Again, everything was very polite here. And explained to him that currently we would not be able to sign this document. And he responded with an email saying, I appreciate you getting back to me in a timely manner regarding the seismic permit, and I will let the office know that you're not interested in participating. That said, I also wanted to let you know that the specific activities granted by the agreement can be defined more clearly on Exhibit B. That's another piece of page here. For example, under special conditions, it could be noted that the permit only allows for receiver points, geophones, and that the permit will expire 6 months from signing. This is commonly done for many of the permits in this area, and I apologize as I may have failed to mention that during the conversation. So what you're talking about here is that the person who signs this really has to be highly informed and has to understand this. Again,
Well, thank you for bringing it to the public's attention. I think the moral is that certainly with any contract, whether it's in this situation or otherwise, really, you should be paying attention to exactly what you're signing. And also, too, you do have the right to say no to these things on your property. But certainly, if this happens to anyone or anyone has any questions, I would encourage you to contact the mayor or your council person, and we can help you as best we can to give you some guidance with these things. But thank you for your comments.
It's not entirely correct that you have the right to say no, because typically the gas rights are sold.
Well, for seismic testing geophones on your property, yes, you do have the right to say no.
No. You
You do.
See, typically the deeds where you obtain the gas rights also include surface access. And if in your deed there is that information, you cannot deny access to the property. I think
It is true that if surface access, if you never had that, you obviously can't restrict them.
Right.
If they obtained that right from the owner, they had the right of surface access to get to the underground minerals and so forth.
We're talking about the previous
most
owners or current owners?
Well, most gas rights were sold long ago to people. Most people don't have their gas rights. Those states were severed a long time ago, and most of the people who do no longer have their gas rights, a lot of them, there are rights of access that go with that. So it all depends whether you have gas rights or not.
Oh, so they could come, okay, so you don't.
So it's not
always-
absolute.
You can't always say no.
Well, it's
then.
not absolute. They'll know if they have the right.
But they're not coming if they don't know they have a chance.
Well,
'Cause they've
I would
done a
say
lot
that they're
with
going to come regardless and
try to get permission.
And
Sure.
try.
And
Okay.
if you feel uncomfortable with somebody coming on your property, call our police. Call our 911
yeah,
dispatch.
well, I know how to handle it, but I'm not sure everybody does.
Oh, I mean, that would be my thing.
I asked,
5 minutes.
what's that?
We are at 5 minutes for
Yeah.
our comment period.
But just one piece of information. I asked him if Huntley owned the gas rights to these 200 square miles they are examining, and he said no. He said it's too complicated to find out who owns the gas rights. So we are doing the survey first, and then, based on the areas that might be of interest, we go into the dungeons to find out who owns the gas.
Interesting. Well, thank you for your comments, sir.
Thank you.
I will leave the floor open for public comment on any municipal item. Seeing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting and move over to our agenda-setting meeting. Mayor Aracinco is unable to attend this evening. Mr. Wilson also had a health-related issue. He could not be here as well. We have an executive session announcement. Council conducted an executive session for personnel and litigation reasons prior to the first budget hearing, Thursday, November 2nd, 2017, beginning at 6:40 p.m. and ending 7 p.m. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at the November 14th council meeting. Moving over to our approval of the minutes, we have our Citizens Night meeting of October 5th, 2017, our council work session of October 5th, 2017, and our regular council meeting of October 10th, 2017. Any comments, questions, additions, or corrections? Okay. Our tax collections. Any comments, council? Questions? List of bills. We'll start with you, Mr. Duncan. Do you have any questions this evening?
I do not.
Mr. Flaherty?
No, sir.
Mr. Johns?
No, sir.
Harvey?
None.
Mrs. Gatos?
No, thank you.
And are there any budget transfers this month?
You may have had some.
Any questions on budget transfers or payroll, council?
No, sir.
No, nothing.
We're going to move over to our consent agenda. We have some old business, which we will be bringing to the floor here. 16-5 STR for the VASA Professional Building. You'd sign in for the record, gentlemen.
Good evening. My name is Jack Finnegan. I represent the applicant. Perhaps a little bit of a history of this will help, but I'll make it real little. This matter was before council, I believe, during the summer. I forget which month it was. Planning Commission approved it. Council denied it because of concerns they may have had with pedestrian or vehicular safety. We appealed that decision to Common Pleas Court. There was the objection from Glenwood people and the two ladies that were up here earlier, Ms. Ross and Ms. Wen. What we agreed to at that session with Judge James was to amend the plan to delete the hall use, which created some concern from the public and you folks. And subsequent to that, we agreed to meet with the people, the adjacent neighbors, to see what their concerns were. And we did that. It was a pleasant meeting. I do have a couple comments on it. By the way, the building is the exact same size. The parking complies, and we think the plan complies with all of your ordinances. Directing our attention a little bit further to that, to the comments the ladies made tonight, we did discuss all of the items they mentioned. They did have a list. And by the way, when we get to the technical things, I'll let Ray Gusty handle that because he's a little more competent than I am in that area. It is C2, by the way. It's on C2, so the use is proper. The matters that they raised were runoff. Now, that's usually handled by the stormwater management plan, which I think was approved or okay by your staff. It's certainly part of your approval, too. And I don't know that it covered Old William Penn runoff, but rather runoff from the site, so he can explain that a little bit more. I think Ray found a way to put the sidewalks in because they asked for relief from that. You might recall before that, then that was denied by council, too. But they're going to put them in, too. The right-of-ways, let me try to straighten that out a little bit. There is a 20-foot right-of-way solely on their property. I think it's a gas right-of-way, okay? That's on, starts at their line and goes 20 feet in from the gas company. It really has nothing to do with the project, and I think there was some confusion with that, as well as the 50-foot right-of-way that's required if a commercial site is building next to a residential site in your ordinance. So there's that 20 feet that nobody can build on, they can't build on, and there's the other 50 feet for vegetation or whatever is going to have to be a buffer area and setback and so forth. So
Could that be combined? So are we talking 80 feet, or are we talking?
There's the 50 feet has to be on our side of the property, and the 20 feet I didn't even know about until we met and talked about it.
Does the 50 start at the 20?
No,
It'll be 70 or 50 total is what we're trying to figure out.
the 20-foot gas easement is it's really on the adjoining property.
Okay, on the other side.
And then the 50 feet is from our property line in.
That will be 70.
Yeah, that distance is 70.
70.
Okay, okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
And there is a slope there going from their property to ours, and Ray can address that. So that needs to be vegetated, and it will be. What we agreed to was not a privacy wall or a retaining wall, because we don't really think that's needed. If you can put trees in to do that, that's not a good idea to build a wall when you have a tree, and not to mention the expenses of the same be out of control. The privacy wall, the analogy to the privacy wall they were talking about is the Giant Eagle Wall, Target Giant Eagle Wall over near the, is that Red Oak Court or whatever it is over there?
Yes.
That was, I recall that, there was a lot of litigation over there, and people were fighting and doing this and doing that, and that's what came out of it with Giant Eagle and stuff. I don't think that's parallel to our site. It's, 15 times bigger or more. They've still got those two buildings there, and the Red Oak Court houses were on the other side of it. They weren't above it or anyplace else. So I don't think a wall would even work there. Would rather have, and I think everybody would rather have trees. What we agreed to do was extend the trees up from the end of Miss Ross's property to include part of Miss Wren's property to give more buffer there. Okay, the lights are already. They mentioned the lights. The lights were already going down on the plan, and it shows it on there, so that shouldn't be an issue. The only thing we really didn't agree to was a privacy wall, like you would see over at Giant Eagle, and a retaining wall, which isn't really necessary. You usually put that up to hold it. And we're going to be far enough away that I don't think that's a requirement. So that's our comments on that. If you have technical questions concerning the runoff or any of that, Ray's here to address any concerns you might have. If you have any questions to me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Is that going to be 2 stories or not?
Yes, 2 stories.
Yes.
2 stories in the front and 1 story in the back.
Okay, now, when you were here before, the second story was to be banquet, to have get-togethers. What is it going to be used for now? The
Same
bottom is
thing.
going to be storefront.
Office retail.
So it's, the entire thing will be office retail?
Yes.
There will be no
The rental hall
party?
is, the rental
No,
hall
rental
is
hall's
gone.
gone.
That's gone?
Right. Same footprint of the building.
Okay.
Hasn't gotten bigger or?
So there's 4, right now there's 4 lease spaces on the first floor and a storage mechanical room. And then on the second floor now, the rental hall is gone.
Okay.
So the second floor will have 4 lease spaces. And
How have you changed
storage
the look of the building then to accommodate new lease spaces on the upper level, which was going to be one big wide open space?
Just add
Have you?
the walls.
More occupancy.
Well, I know, but are you going to lease out the whole thing as one, or are you breaking it up, or you don't know?
Party walls.
Okay.
Same as the first.
Okay.
Kind of depends on what kind of tenants you get.
What
when
kind
you
of tenant
build-
you,
to build
right,
it
I
out.
just wasn't sure what you were doing.
Right. So one may
accordingly.
want 2 spaces.
Okay, okay.
And we have the adequate amount of parking to meet the ordinance.
So no matter what happens, the parking's taken care of?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you want, I'll be happy to sit down with anybody to develop a set of conditions if it's going to be approved. As long as it doesn't include the walls we're talking about, because they wouldn't, I don't think that'd be that attractive or
The
helpful.
only concern I have is that you and the 2 ladies back there that you talked to.
Yes.
Put those conditions on the ordinance for us to pass.
Sure.
Yeah, so that way we have the exact, what you agree on.
You guys know what
they-
you're talking about, we know.
Oh, you don't
Well, it
understand
sounds
that?
like it's on the plan. Is it not, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that's not on the plan is the fence.
The fence is not on the
No.
plan.
So we have the sidewalk.
Okay.
The lighting.
Yeah.
Photometrics are submitted as part of this Monroeville's requirement.
Right.
Which meets the ordinance.
Yeah, the
And
stormwater's
was
been approved.
Was approved.
Okay.
We had to make revisions to the stormwater. That was approved.
Is the landscaping on there, the
Yes.
enhanced landscaping,
It
we'll call it?
It is. It is.
Could you, Joe, could you put the camera back up, please? Sir, if you could just pull that,
you slide
just
that
pull it
down?
towards you just a little bit. That's good right there. Now, if you could just orient people of what's what and where we're at. I know it's Old William Penn Highway. If you could point out where Old William Penn is.
Old William Penn is up here.
And you'll have one entry point.
One entry point. The old former Johnny Mac's Pizza is across the street.
Okay.
One entry point. This is the lower level. You have to come up grade here up to get up to the second level. So this is 2 stories in the front, 1 story in the back. this is a cut slopes. This is all coming down. So this is all below the 2 residential lots.
So, I'm slow. Jan, where are you at on this? Where's Jan at on this?
Right here,
In
right.
her- Oh, okay, I missed that, okay.
And that is uphill from, she is uphill from your site.
How far away is the
Both of
giant
you?
Eagle
I
Plaza?
forgot your name.
Pat.
She's behind my
It's,
house.
it's over here.
Yeah, Pat's.
It's off the picture,
Yeah.
it's off the map.
It's off the map. I mean, their properties here.
Yeah, but the actual structures.
It's way off. It's off. That's where Jack is.
I didn't like the reference, but I was
The parking lot is
Why,
where
you're a
it's
giant
pretty-
eagle right now, Jack, enjoy.
So that line of trees is
Parking lot versus where the
Yes.
wall,
Right.
is that what I'm understanding?
So it seems the neighbors are appeased, and if everything
Well,
goes through
we can
our-
talk to them more about the fence and get that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to sit down
Yeah,
with
that's what
them
I'm
and him,
understanding.
and everybody be in agreement. You ladies may need to come back on Tuesday, with the conditions approved, so that we know that everyone's on the same page.
Well, we need to know that before Tuesday, because I hear one thing from the residents, I hear
what
one
I'm
thing
saying,
from
it
the
needs to happen,
developer.
yeah.
If this is
Right.
something that if you could talk this evening or tomorrow and talk to our engineering department and Monday at the latest, so they could have everything hammered out and firmed up for us to vote on Tuesday, that'd be great.
Sure.
Council, any other questions or comments for these gentlemen?
Pat?
Council? Council? Excuse me?
Lady in the back has a question.
Pat
Yes.
had a question.
Yes, can I?
Can you approach?
Come on up, yes, please, you can come on up to the microphone, please.
I just.
Wait till you get up.
Wait till you get to the microphone so everybody can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll yell at you.
When we talked, the only question I have, you said there was going to be a retaining wall here, and it was going to flatten out, and then you're going to have a retaining wall. Not a privacy wall, a
What?
retaining wall.
No, there's no wall back here.
Yeah, I don't
We
remember the
we
wall.
can't, this is an existing right-of-way. We can't grade beyond that line. So this all slopes down to the parking lot. But there's no need, there's a wall here, and there's a wall here
Okay.
at the parking lot.
Is that good?
Yeah, like Mr. Gusty said, there is a wall. I'm sorry.
Tell them who you are.
State your name for the record, please.
Sign in,
And
sign in, state
Sure,
your name.
Oh, we got rules.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, like Mr. Gusty said, the slope is coming down to that property.
I'm sorry, can you now state your name, please?
Yes, Ravi Balan.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yes,
Now we're good.
thank you,
The
sir.
floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, like we said, the slopes is down about almost 10 to 15 feet from their property, the two ladies that were here. And there is a retaining wall on this area because it is a big steep slope from where the parking lot is to the back of the property, the edge of the property.
Okay.
So that way, there is a wall, you see this dark brown line. We had to put that so to protect the land behind it and to have a retaining wall. There is a wall here at least 5 to 8 feet tall there.
Oh, good, okay.
Okay.
Good to
So
know.
that protects the land from sloping down, and there is a wall right there. Yeah. So, and these trees are going to buffer both the houses. There. We don't want to encroach on that property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks.
Council, any further questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you could just wrap up what we discussed with the engineering department, so then council knows what they're voting on Tuesday.
We have a pending court matter to resolve and get rid of. Okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Right, okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
And moving over to new business.
New business. We also have a property, Wilco Tango Foxtrot Properties. Applicant is requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval, tax parcel 858D65 to subdivide the lot into 3 lots. Each of the proposed lots will have acreage in excess of 0.5 acres. The address of the parcel is located at 2505 Haymaker Road in the R1 Family Residential Zoning District. Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions. The applicant here.
And we'll see him, Mr.
Anybody?
Wheel will have to pitch it.
Could you please state your name? and sign in?
Okay, I'm Paul Wilden, the zoning officer. The applicant, it's a very simple application. It's a proposed three-lot subdivision. The existing house is located at the split at Haymaker and Saunders Station Road. It's an existing house. It had a couple acres of property. The
Can you show me where the Haymakers, where's the road?
this is Haymaker,
Okay,
and then the Saunders Station split is right in this area.
okay.
I think it's actually a little bit above it. But there was, the existing house had a very large yard. The person who bought the property wants to subdivide it and create 2 more buildable lots, and he's going to try to sell those lots so that somebody can build houses there.
Okay.
Now, so Paul, in your example there on the map, so that to the right of the property, is that a paper street?
Nope, that's an existing driveway. It's a private driveway.
How would they access that rear property?
Using the existing private driveway. There is a 50-foot right-of-way for that driveway. Everybody has access to it. So this person has access to Haymaker Road from the driveway. The proposed Lot 3 has access to Haymaker, and there's another existing house back here that also has access to that driveway.
There's actually 5 houses that share that lane currently. It's 25, 11 and a half and up. Just wanted to point that out. It's a private lane. That's
You know something about that driveway?
Oh, I do.
Do you drive that driveway?
Every day.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So adding 2 more residences to that driveway?
Only be one person using it. The Lot 2 would have access from Haymaker.
I would imagine there's a covenant in the deed that permits them to have access to that driveway, I would imagine.
Yes, I specifically asked, and they put a note on here. According to the owner, there are no restrictions regarding additional subdivided lots or accesses, and the road is jointly maintained by all property owners who use the road.
Shit.
Oh, whoops.
No, it ain't. I maintain it. Sorry. I'm going to have to recuse myself from this one.
Well, that's why you're so buff. Yeah, you're going to have to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess is this typical with like private driveways when we add parcels to that? I don't know what is, because where do you draw the line? Like if they wanted to subdivide it into smaller sections, where do you draw the line as far as how many people or how many
Private
properties?
driveways are always a problem. It's not divided up. You know, you're responsible for this part. You're responsible for that part. There's no.
There actually was a contract drawn up from between all the residences that we all paid a percentage.
Having a
everybody
couple of the people passed away and stuff.
Everybody did.
Yeah.
3 of them. Of the 5.
Is there any way that we as council could ask that they look into something like that? Are we legally allowed to do that?
That I'm not sure.
Well,
if you can hold
we
it
have
up.
certain regulations that they have to meet. They have to meet minimum lot size. Nobody can landlock anybody.
Right.
If they have existing private agreements, which is what they would be since there aren't any public roads there, as long as nobody's landlocked and they have access between the parcels and the lots are the proper size, that's probably the extent of what we can regulate.
So we can't ask that everybody kind of maintains, so it's not all thrown on
No,
one
no,
person?
it's private. It's up to them.
As a
I mean,
private-
there are some communities that do, even though you're on a private driveway and the lots get really weird configured, they do require you have 50 foot of frontage on a public road. There are some, we don't have anything like that, I wouldn't imagine.
Maybe get more friendly with your neighbors.
Well, the municipality can't require the property to the rear. Joe, if you could show the map again, I'm sorry.
I know.
the municipality couldn't force the rear property to get access from Haymaker Road by going through the front property
I don't think
to
so.
create, another driveway on the opposite side.
Yeah.
If they have rights in the existing roadway, then they have a right to use it. I mean, those are private rights. It's not something for our
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
consideration, but, you know, if they're private rights, they're private rights. It's
Okay.
between the parties.
And they meet every other condition?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay, thank you.
I'll make sure the applicant is here next week.
Please.
Very good. Our next item. Tim?
Okay, the next one is the Gateway School District. Applicant is requesting rezoning of property from R1, family residential, R1, family residential to C2, business commercial. The property address is 4550 Old William Penn Highway and known as Allegheny County Lot and Block Number 855N105 and is approximately 26 acres. This is a public hearing.
Gentlemen, would you identify yourselves, please, for the record?
Steve O'Donnell, Gateway School Board. Robert Maital, RF Maital Associates.
Mr. Maital.
Mr. Ratcher.
Will you please proceed with your presentation?
Yes, I have been retained by the school district to prepare a plan and an application for rezoning. The property is bounded by the Parkway, Mosside Boulevard, and Old 22. The colors around here represent the different zoning districts, this being manufacturing. This already is C2. This area over here on the other side of the Parkway is R1. This as well is R1. This is the Good Shepherd Church, surrounded by the Parkway Building, Cochran Collision Center, and then the various businesses that are on Old 22. It's currently, as you all know, R1, and we're requesting it to be rezoned to C2. It's, if you haven't been there, I'm sure many of you have, it's a large school, athletic fields, parking lots. With me tonight is representative from the school district. Superintendent Short had to leave because of another meeting that he had. Mr. O'Donnell, this is a public hearing, so would you want to? Well, if you have anything to ask me, I'd be glad to try to answer them. In short, the school district's population has decreased, as all populations in schools in Allegheny County have decreased. This is a 50, 60-year-old facility. It's increasingly expensive to maintain and will become so as we move forward. School district has ample property on its main campus to facilitate the development of another building if and when this property sells and we go through all of the proper hearings, et cetera, to do that. The population in this, the number of students in this particular facility, I think is about 500, and that's about half of what it was designed to accommodate. So going forward, it was judged by the board that it was in the district's best interest to consider moving forward with the sale of this property. So we have had it zoned and we have had it surveyed, and we have made application to the planning committee, and now we're in front of council asking that it be rezoned to C2, I believe, which would result, we believe, in a higher sale or lease price were that to occur. If you have questions, I'll be glad to try to answer.
You may have touched on this, so your decision to go from to C2 as opposed to C1.
Well, we were advised to go to C2. It seems more consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. You have manufacturing. This already is C2 in this area. Plus, with the major highways that are here, it seems more like a more reasonable fit that it would be, that you would go with the higher zoning district. As the
the school district has thought about this long and hard, and of course, it is very upsetting to, I'm sure, some of the neighbors that this would be changed. However, as you heard earlier this evening, talking about just air pollution and whatnot, if the school district came to you today and said, gee, we own this 26 acres over here, we want to build a school there, I think you would look at them and question them and say, why? You've got this parkway, you've got this Moss Side Boulevard, you've got a lot of air pollution and traffic there. You have a PennDOT maintenance garage right here. So if you were doing that today, I think you would ask them why. But in 1950, this certainly made sense when the school was built. I mean, the parkway wasn't there. You didn't have the intensive development. You didn't have the second most congested intersection, or I shouldn't say congested, but heavy traffic down here, business at this intersection of 48 and 22. That being said, we understand that if this were rezoned, this would be essentially a non-conforming use until it was sold and an actual another use was proposed for that. And if someone came in for another use rather than just using this building as is, even if they wanted to use this building, you would still have to go through the normal site plan procedures with traffic studies and meeting all the other municipal requirements for a new use at this location.
Is there something on the table now as to why you want the use that you want for this property? Is there someone interested?
No.
So no. Okay, secondly, if you would sell this property, the school district gets all the money for it.
Correct.
Correct? And then you've cut out a whole cost factor of running that school.
Correct.
So therefore, is there any chance the public can look forward to maybe a tax cut in their school taxes?
I would think what the public could look forward to is an increase in the fund balance of the school district, because the school district
Well, I
is
think
going to
the
have to
public
accommodate.
would like to see their fund balance increased.
I'm certain they would. I'm one of those folks. But we have to look down the road. We're going to have to construct a new facility. Our current Moss Side Middle School is probably 50, 55 years old as well. So these funds would be designated by the school district undoubtedly as construction funds for a new facility as we go forward. However, I would
To try to make a campus then, is what you're basically trying to do, is take your outside and put it all in one area.
Except for the elementary schools, that's correct.
And you're going to keep those within the neighborhoods? Is that pretty much?
Correct. That is accurate.
Okay.
I do have a concern. It's almost like putting the cart before the horse. It would, and I don't even know if this matters, but it would seem to make more sense is to have somewhere for the kids to go now, in case it does sell, and then you're not behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's already been considered by management. The superintendent and his team already have relocation plans developed. I think we need to be aware here that because we do not have a sale or a lease agreement or anyone interested at this point in time, this is not going to occur overnight. This will be a lengthy process if something were to occur, say, over the next month or two. There would still be all of the negotiations that the district and a potential lessee or purchaser would want to go through. We are in the process of identifying the chattels that we wish to retain that would not be part of the sale. And then before it could be sold, we have to go through a public hearing process as well, which is required by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. So there's no reason to assume this is going to happen overnight.
But to be clear, though, let's say in the event that it did happen, maybe quicker than what you'd anticipate, you have enough room in the district to house all your students in other buildings.
Yes.
That would not be an issue.
Would not be an issue.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then I have another question. If it's rezoned, this might be a question for Mr. Hugis's department. If it's rezoned, and if a developer comes in, and when we talk about the traffic concerns in that area, would that developer be able to petition PennDOT to have access to the parkway, direct access, at least westward? Or is that something that is done, can be done?
I've never seen it done. I mean, the parkway's limited access highway. The odds of PennDOT allowing a access point
An
directly
off-ramp,
on.
an on-ramp
I
from
would
that.
think it's slim to none, to be quite honest with you. But I mean, it's not that they couldn't ask for it, but the reality of it is probably no.
Okay. And Mr. Ratcher, I believe you had a question.
Paul, I just have a question. This is a procedural thing. I'm looking on the agenda here, and it has this listed, and underneath at the bottom of the page, it says, "The Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions." I'm assuming that we just got a little out of hand with a boilerplate there, because typically we wouldn't have any conditions on a rezoning. Yeah, is that the case? There were no conditions? Because there are no conditions in the ordinance.
I recall no conditions being verbalized that evening.
Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe we can remove that from the agenda for...
Yeah, we can edit that. That's no problem.
Well, with conditions is all it has to be removed.
Correct.
The Planning Commission, obviously,
They
their
did approve.
recommendation should be part of the agenda.
Yes, the Planning Commission did approve, or recommends approval, rather.
Good.
Council, are there any other questions? Mr. Harvey?
I just had a couple residents call me, and their comments were, why not leave it residential and develop it residential? They feel like the almighty buck is once again overriding their neighborhood. These are people from Old William Penn, Old Haymaker, and they thought if the school's leaving, why not develop it as a residential community? And
Senior
I think
living,
that's- I think
senior
that's a
living
good-
would be
I think
nice.
that's a fair question. However, when you talk about neighborhoods, I don't really think you consider what's on this side of Moss Side versus what's on that side of Moss Side is really a neighborhood. And I think that the school district has an obligation. This is a piece of property, and they're trying to maximize the value out of it as being good stewards of this asset. And I think that is the almighty dollar end of it. Yes.
that part I actually get, but I think the residents, from the long conversations, counting the one just before this meeting, I think they want the school district to think about them. I think they want to say, look, that's our tax money too. We'd rather it be a nice community, neighborhood, senior, condos or something, and I promised I would present that question.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey, if and when the school district does have an offer to lease or sell, then we will begin the process of complying with the Department of Education's public hearing process. At that point in time, those residents could come and talk to us about whatever is on their minds. And I would like to reinforce what Bob said. This property is probably not a particularly well-situated property for residential development. Because it
I don't know, at 26 acres, it could have a pretty good buffer.
Yeah.
But it's located in the midst of industrial and facilities like that. But regardless, the highest and best use is commercial, and we have a responsibility, I think, to go in that direction.
Wait, let me jump off what you said, because I want to stay in that same subject area. If we change this to C2, if someone came in, if a developer came in and wanted to build for senior living, which we need desperately in Monroeville,
Okay.
could we still do it, or will we then have to go back to the
Have to
R?
rezone it.
We'd have to rezone again?
Yes, I believe that you would.
Okay.
But I would think that if someone came forth with that kind of proposal and the community was really behind it, I don't see that the council would have any misgivings about that either.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we could go backwards if we needed to, if we got that, because I think it'd be
But
a
if I
great thing for the
understand you
community.
correctly, I should advise these residents when you have the public hearings to come and...
Correct. And that, quite honestly, could be 6 months from now or 2 years from now.
But could you come up here and tell us so that we all know, and then we can let our, especially Mr. Harvey, or at least call him?
Absolutely.
Well, that
Tell you when
That
that
whatever
process is
happened,
going to,
yes,
sure, absolutely.
yes.
If I understand that right now, correct me if I'm wrong, that wouldn't be until you had a proposed buyer?
Correct. But then we had a buyer or someone who's been interested in leasing it, and we had an agreement on the table, and of course, any agreement on the table.
On what they intended on doing?
Absolutely. Well, yes, and it would be conditioned upon the approval process that we still must go through.
Even with us?
Regardless of, yes,
Yes.
we have a second approval process.
So
Also
what
want
is
to
it-
stress one other thing with respect to the development. I can only speak for the flavor of the board right now. Boards change, as you all know. But our interest is in securing a buyer or an operation that would lease the facility that would pay taxes. There's not a lot of interest in developing with a not-for-profit organization. This long-term advantage of this derives both to the school district and the municipality. So we would be taking this 26-acre piece of ground, and after concluding the Department of Public Education process, then that developer would be a for-profit, or if it were a not-for-profit, I believe the agreement would have to be a payment in lieu of, equal to
Mr. Ratcher,
taxes.
am I under the understanding if we approved the rezoning to C2, and then they had an offer of a buyer, that there would be a public hearing from the school district?
Correct.
And then it would come back to us again?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The first hurdle they have to pass if they intend to transfer the property and close the school, they have responsibilities to the Department of Education, which we have nothing to do with, obviously. Then beyond that, the next step would be for them to come in the same way any other developer would come in, with a development application, and if the zoning was incorrect and they wanted to change the zoning, an application to change the zoning, conditional use, whatever.
So one way or another, once they find a buyer, no matter who it is, it would come back.
Absolutely. At some point it would, but it would go to the Department of Education first.
And it's even better than that, Mr. Harvey, because the way the zoning department runs the regulations, even if someone came in and said, look, I want to use, I'm not going to do anything with this building, I'm going to use it for a college or
Teaching
teaching or something like that, it's a change in use. So it still comes back to you guys.
No matter what, it sounds like it comes back through us at
Yes,
some
sir.
point.
Yes, we have a good relationship with you gentlemen and lady, and we're going to talk with you about this as we have. I've been up in front of you before. We want to sell or lease this asset to a developer who's going to develop something that's compatible, that works well within our community. We all live here. We're not going to put something up there that would not be that way. So we're going to talk to you. We're going to keep you. I've talked to the mayor. We've spoken. So we're going to keep you informed and work cooperatively. It's in our best interest and yours.
Very good. The C2 zone, Paul, is mixed-use development permitted in a C2? That is like some residential with like retail or office buildings?
No.
Shut up. All right, that's my answer.
If you would like, we could give you the use tables in your packets to show you what's allowed in C2 and what's allowed in the other zoning districts.
That'd be helpful. That'd be helpful.
For the weekend.
Thank you. Council, any other questions for these gentlemen?
Well, then,
Very good.
No, I have nothing.
Right, before I step down, I want to congratulate you, Mayor-elect,
Thank you.
on your election, and I'd like to congratulate the other board members who have won. Tom Wilson's not here, but congratulations, and I think this school board and the following school board looks forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Myrtle.
Close the public hearing.
I would like to accept a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Close the public hearing.
Very good.
Gotcha.
All in favor?
Aye.
And so we will have a voting meeting next
Tuesday, on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to move over to motions.
We need a break? Yeah, we do. Sharon needs a break?
We are going to take just a quick 5-minute break for our stenographer. We'll be back here in 5 minutes. Motion. Okay, we are back in session from our recess, and we're starting with motions. Moving over to motions, Mr. Little.
Yeah, for Tuesday night, we have one motion, a motion to place a half-page advertisement in the amount of $100 in the 2017-18 yearbook of the Gateway Hockey Club.
Mr.
Any
Wilson's
question?
in.
No questions.
Good.
Nope.
How big
Okay.
is the page? Half a page?
That's a half a page.
Half a page.
That's why Mr. Wilson's in.
And resolutions.
We have two resolutions. And I have another one, though, too, that I'll explain to council. Resolution implementing the National Incident Management System. Mr., you just want to give a brief synopsis of what that is, Doug, so council understands? Because it's important.
National Incident Management System is just what we would do on a national level, which is now, geez, we've had one in place for probably almost 10 years now, I bet. This is just updating that ordinance, or that resolution, excuse me. It's part of emergency management. It's part of everything that we do, police-wise, fire-wise. We're all on the same page. It really, if you get to the whole history of it, it came out of fighting forest fires 30 years ago, but the bottom line of it is the federal government, after 9/11, made us all get on the same page, and that's just us doing it here. We're just clerical stuff, getting it caught up.
Yeah, council, if you haven't already, every appointed and elected official it's a federal law. Actually, it's in the United States, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is. It's a federal mandate that gets handed down through the state, through the counties, to the local municipalities. And you can go online and take the initial.
Right.
You only need to do one or two levels of it. When you get into the higher levels, that all the command officers at the fire department, as well as myself in the police department, they actually become 2 or 3 day long classes. But the basic stuff can just be go onto the FEMA website, look up National Incident Management, and you take a.
Years ago, I believe a lot of us got certified.
Yeah, a lot of you did do that.
I think what they,
Yeah, if you already have.
I think what they found out after Katrina was there was a whole bunch of elected officials had no clues to what to do during a state of an emergency like that. And they said enough's enough. And
What it basically tells you is just how it would set up. Like individuals don't know at the emergency management level that if one municipality, they try to keep it at the lowest level. If we can handle it with our municipality resources, we're good. If we get 2 municipalities overwhelmed, then the county comes in and takes over. If 2 counties get overwhelmed, then of course the state comes in and helps not say take over, they actually give us multiple resources. And this is so when more resources come here in a major event, most of us is weather related, flooding, that type of stuff. Then everybody's on the same page. That's just about what it's about.
Very good.
Great.
So as more information comes out, I'll email it to council so they understand what their responsibilities are. It's just a matter of knowing the vocabulary in case some kind of an incident happens. We have to set up a command center under the emergency management plan. Everybody has different duties, and so everybody knows the lingo and everything that's going on.
Okay.
Okay, second.
Very good.
Okay, a second resolution for Tuesday evening is a resolution adopting the Get-Go sewage planning module. Also, I have a third resolution that is not on there would be for the grant that we have received for $45,000. I have a template for it, but I got it from the county late today, but it'll be on for Tuesday night. It's a boilerplate resolution for the active Allegheny County grant that has to be passed, and that'll be on for Tuesday also.
Very good. Any questions, council? Okay, we'll move over to ordinances. Mr. Ratcher.
We have one ordinance, an ordinance granting temporary and permanent easements over tax parcel number 745N-365 to the Borough of Pitcairn pursuant to Section 501H of the Home Rule Charter for the Dirty Camp Flood Control Project. And we discussed this at a prior council meeting. In order to convey the interest in the property to them, we had to do it by ordinance, so we had to advertise thus. This is the ordinance we want you to act on. If anybody has any questions or doesn't remember the conversation, please ask me.
Council?
Is that?
Very good. And we're going to move over to our reports of staff. Mr. Ratcher, you still have the floor. Do you have anything to add?
No report.
Mr. Little.
Yeah, Joe, you want to pull up the pictures of the trail kiosk, just a couple pictures to show the public and council. Well, that's a tree.
It is.
Okay, these are pictures of the trail at our trailhead down near Saunders Station. Joe, you want to go to the next picture? Oh, it's another tree.
We're getting closer.
We're getting closer. We want to get to that
fall
kiosk. Keep moving along,
That's the
Joe.
before picture.
There's a tree with no leaves.
Another tree.
Joe, we got to work on your photography.
There we go. There we go. There's a trail kiosk. Okay, that was an Eagle Scout project.
Really nice.
Yeah, I think it's very nice.
Yeah.
I haven't
Do we
been down
have-
there since they completed it. It's the first time I've seen it completed. It's very nice.
Do we have the Eagle Scout's name?
Yeah.
Josh Weidman.
Josh Weidman.
Good job,
Thank
Josh.
you,
Super
Josh.
job down there. Great job.
Yeah, very good job.
And, that,
Okay.
and just so everyone knows, the flag is flown 24/7. They actually have a solar-powered light that comes on at night on the flag. So very thoughtful project.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Joe.
Yeah, at nighttime, yeah.
Also, number 2 is Monroeville Annual Tree Lighting Festivities will be on Tuesday, November 21st at 7 p.m. at the Old Stone Church, as it annually is. And number 3, I just want to remind council that the reorganizational meeting, which has to be held every other year biennially, will be on Tuesday, January the 2nd. And under the Borough Code, your work session is that Thursday, and if you want, you can have your work session or even your council, in the council meeting, the same night as when you have the reorganizational meeting.
I like that idea.
It's up to council. Let me know if you want to have, because you have a meeting on Thursday, the work session, and you can have it the same night also, and also even the council meeting. But I just mention that because the work session is in the same week. Okay, and that concludes but I would like to congratulate Linda, Nick, and Tom, okay, on their election. Very good.
Thank you.
And,
Ron and Greg?
well, yeah, Tom, yeah. Yeah, we knew, and Greg were going to be in, they were unopposed. But also, I'd like to thank the voters, too, for voting in all the Home Rule Charter Committee for ballot questions. I think it was the right thing to do, and it's going to clean up a lot of items in the Home Rule Charter that need to be cleaned up and need to be correlated with the Borough Code. So thank you to the voters. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Mr. Hugus, any report this evening?
No, sir.
Oh, yeah, we laughed and laughed and laughed about that.
Nothing. Okay. And moving over to our reports of council members, Mrs. Gatos.
Okay, first of all, I want to wish best wishes for what Mr. Wilson is going through right now, that everything turns out well. Secondly, we'll be happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I'll say it again probably on Tuesday, but I don't want to forget to tell everyone, be thankful for your family, because you never know when you're going to lose someone or something in your life, so it's a good time to reflect. November 11th is, please remember, it's Veterans Day. It is a day to remember and honor the brave men and women who have fought for us, for this United States, that have given us the right that we had on this past Tuesday. And for this past Tuesday, not only do I want to say thank you to everyone that came out in that horrific weather to vote for all of us to come back here, and that we get to all work together again, keeping Monroeville moving forward. I just feel very blessed that the people took their time during that, and then the sun did shine the next day, which said they all made a good decision. That's the way I'm looking at it anyway, so thank you so much. Congrats to all of my other elected officials. I can't wait to work with you longer. November 14th for the Senior Center is Italian Wedding Soup Day. So with this cold weather coming up, it sounds like a great thing. It is, tomorrow's your last day to get tickets, though. But the 14th, Italian wedding soup, salad, apple crisp with ice cream, live entertainment of music from the 50s and 60s, and it's only $5. I mean, that's ridiculously cheap. No bread for you.
Dip in a soup.
Yep, there is going to be.
What kind?
Noon.
Wedding.
There's still time to order your pizzelles from the center as well. You have until 11/22 to do it. $6 a dozen. Pick them up December 8th. And other than that, I think that's everything that I have. Oh, and thank you to my husband for helping me through all this election. It was, a lot of work, and again, a long day for everyone that worked out there as well. Can't help but thank all those people too. And that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Harvey.
This is actually, and I don't mean to sound smart, but this is getting old, but I want to send my condolences and prayers to all the people of Sutherland Springs, Texas.
Oh.
That was horrific, and I don't know how else to explain it. Everybody knows about it. Just, you wish that there was something you could do to help, but you can't. So they are winging it, and I watch it every night on the news, and it's just a terrible thing, and I don't know what else you can do except send your condolences. On a brighter note, I was reading WTA's webpage, which I do every morning, and I sent this to Mr. Little. He thought I should read it, and they had an article on some communities near Pittsburgh ranked among the best small cities in America. And this is done by a group that does everything but first-class cities all over the country. Now, when I read you this, understand this is the national rating. Among communities near Pittsburgh, Morgantown, West Virginia got the highest marks, landing at number 67. Monroeville, PA ranked 78th, and Bethel Park ranked 94th. So good job, everybody. It became one of the 78th, ranked the 78th best small city in America. Not bad.
Good news.
That's pretty good.
Any other things I'm going to do Tuesday, so I'm done.
Very good. Mr. Johns.
Yeah, I really don't have anything except what I would like to do, if I can, is to try to make a motion, if I may, to extend our next two folks to do their budget reports on Tuesday at 6:30 instead of this evening.
Second. Is there a second?
I'm in.
All in favor? So that would be a motion to continue the budget hearing, 6:30 on Tuesday.
We'll be here
We'll be
6:30
finishing
on
up with
Tuesday, so Tim and-
Human Resources Department and
Mr.
Mr. Little's report as well. And then certainly council can continue that if we need to, but, so we have a motion and a second with all the affirmatives. Get it, so.
Thank you.
We'll
That's
do
all
that.
I have, sir.
Mr. Clary.
I just wanted to congratulate my colleagues that got reelected. Good job, everybody.
Thank you.
Kudos to our newly elected officials, Linda, Nick, Greg, Tom, and our,
Ron.
I got Ron there. I passed right over you, Ron. Ron, Greg, Tom.
That's two
And
times tonight,
let's not
Ron.
forget
Poor
our tax
Ron.
collector, Pat.
Yeah, Pat.
Poor little Pat. It was a clean sweep, and I'm looking forward to working with you all. And lastly, I would like to send out congratulations to my daughter and son-in-law, Ashley and Travis. On Halloween night, we were informed we're going to have another grandchild, so.
I was informed too. My son told
Happy
me.
number 5.
Yay! Number 5.
And
Yeah.
that's all I have. Oh, and good luck to Tom and his family. I hope for their health issues work out.
Great. And I'll finish up with, while we're already talking about it, congratulations to Steve and your family for the expansion of your family. And I too will thank the voters for coming out and for
Say all that Tuesday.
electing me and giving me the opportunity to be your mayor. It's quite an honor, and I had a lot of help, and I appreciate all the help I received Election Day, and also for the past several months. So looking forward to serving the community in this capacity. Mr. Wilson, best wishes. Also, the Home Rule Charter questions, we hear loud and clear. We have to do a better job at educating the public moving forward for those questions. And lastly, we want to keep our thoughts and prayers with one of our employees, a library employee, Jonah Cornelius, who is fighting an illness right now. But we are thinking and praying for you. Her husband, Dave, is also one of our staff members in the Public Works Department. But we all wish her the best. We are praying for her. And with that, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.